So if you look at the AI business, Polish companies' investment in the AI business are at the level of 30 globally, but Polish talents' participation in the AI revolution is top 5. So IT, development of software, at some point AI, this is also quite promising because the country has resources to grow in that area.
When it comes to research and development in other areas, our fourth expert witness says Poland has underinvested. Here, curiously, Russia's war with Ukraine has also played a role. Poland has pushed defence spending to unprecedented levels, rising from just over 4% of GDP to nearly 5%. This, in turn, has led to more money for scientific advancement than the country has seen for some 2 decades.
We hope that those kind of spending on defense will spread across the private business and economy and also improve this important weakness of the Polish economy, which are innovations and R&D investment.
Going forward, there's also the question as to what will happen when the Ukraine conflict comes to an end.
I think everybody wants Ukrainians to stay, and that's the intention of the government and also Polish citizens. They fill the gap on the labor market. Of course, the question is what they will do after the ceasefire, when war will end. A lot of Ukrainians probably will come to Poland when the war will end. So we hope the net balance of migration will stay flat, low, or zero, but not negative. Otherwise, if 1 million Ukrainians would leave, that will be quite a negative shock for the Polish economy because they're filling the gap on the Polish labor market and they integrate very quickly, so contributing to Polish growth.
Now we return to our question. Why is Poland's economy booming? The country has built on its wealth progressively over a period of 3 decades in the face of multiple challenges, the switch from communism, hyperinflation, and in more recent years, conflict across its border to the east. Poland has been able to draw heavily on its adaptable workforce and trust in its post-Cold War institutions, which have helped it attract both private investment and EU funding. The question now is if it can preserve its edge when it comes to labour, and part of that depends on what happens when the Ukraine war comes to an end. You've been listening to The Inquiry from the BBC World Service. You can listen to more editions of our podcast, including How Will Spain's Migrant Amnesty Work? And Is the 2026 World Cup an own goal? Just search for The Inquiry wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, why not also subscribe to hear all future editions of The Inquiry podcast? This edition of The Inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett. The producer was Matt Tolson, the researcher Evie Yabsley, the editor Tom Bigwood, and the technical producer Cameron Ward.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on that app and on YouTube from our studios in downtown Winnipeg. Well, yesterday, I think a lot of us just pulled the blinds and called it a day. That storm in Winnipeg and across Manitoba getting snow was a little bit sad. But you know what? It's a late spring storm, and a lot of it's going to melt off. Already, Portage Avenue, you can see the pavement out the studio window. It's cloudy. It's -6 this morning as we start our Wednesday. Thompson with light snow still falling. It's -15, and it's foggy and Brennan this morning, so beware of that, and it's -10. Corey Funk's directing the show and covering the commute. Abby Adiyemi behind the controls and covering the weather. And Mr. Darren Marash is producing YouTube, as he always does if you're watching the show stream live there. So good morning to our studio crew. And let's say hello to Heather Wells, who's also here in our news center with headlines ahead of 6. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the organization that represents Manitoba school boards is defending school divisions for raising taxes. The province forecasts a 22% increase in education property tax revenue this fiscal year, and several school divisions are now proposing hefty increases to their mill rates for the next year. Manitoba School Boards Association President Alan Campbell says divisions are making up for chronic underfunding. We're going to hear from him coming up. As well, a woman has told a Winnipeg court she once had suspicions about her husband's involvement in a 2019 beating death of one of his co-workers. We'll hear what's been happening in court in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In the program today, we're going to talk about fertilizer prices. You might remember some recent stories earlier this month, talking to producers in Manitoba about how the price of fuel, the U.S.-Israel war in Iran, cutting off exports from the Middle East is going to affect them here. So we're going to look at that in a wider way across the prairies. So stay tuned for that. In addition, we have a number of housing experts and the housing minister federally in Winnipeg today to talk about solutions to the crisis facing our country and certainly our province and city. An expert from Finland is one of those people on affordable housing, going to be on a panel today. He's going to join us to talk about how they are working there to eradicate homelessness. So stay tuned for that. And on our medical column, Dr. Raj Bhardwaj will talk cholesterol. Stay tuned. World Report.
On cue.
In banking, I was paid properly, while in motherhood, not so much.
Sindhu V didn't start out in comedy. She was an investment banker and a stay-at-home mom, but now she's one of the most sought-after comics working today. She'll be here to talk about her new show, which she wrote out of a time of grief. How to be funny even when you're feeling so sad. Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland and on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcast.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Israel says it has killed Iran's intelligence minister in an overnight airstrike. Tehran has not confirmed this. But Iran is renewing attacks on Israel in retaliation for the death of another leader. State television confirming last night that Ali Larijani was killed in an Israeli airstrike. The head of Iran's army is vowing to maintain attacks on Israel and across the Gulf states. From Doha, the CBC's Katie Simpson has the latest.
Early morning, Tel Aviv, sirens blare as missiles with cluster munitions are seen streaking across the sky. The debris striking an apartment, killing 2 people. Iranian state television saying the attacks are retaliation for the killing of its security chief, Ali Larijani. But in an interview with Al Jazeera, Iran's foreign minister warned that Larijani's death will not disrupt the regime. The system will continue. Iran also launched more strikes overnight on its neighbors. Explosions were reported near the American embassy in Baghdad, while defense systems in Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia intercepted a range of Iranian attacks. The U.S. military says it launched new strikes targeting Iranian positions along the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's blockade of the crucial shipping route has disrupted global energy markets, causing gas prices around the world to soar. U.S. Central Command says it took aim at Iranian anti-ship missile sites using multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions, all while Israel says it has continued with its campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Search and rescue crews cleared the site of a strike in Beirut, a building in a residential neighborhood that was nearly demolished. Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health says at least 20 people were killed in a series of attacks over the past 24 hours. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Doha.
U.S. President Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence is about to get grilled by the Senate Intelligence Committee. Tulsi Gabbard will be answering tough questions about the justification for launching war on Iran. Let's bring in Willie Lowry from our Washington bureau. Willie, put this in context for us. What is Gabbard's testimony all about?
So this is a yearly intelligence hearing, but with the war in Iran raging on and questions swirling over why U.S. President Donald Trump decided to attack Iran, senators are expected to grill Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, and other agency heads over just what kind of threat the U.S. really faced in the lead-up to the first strikes. Trump has given conflicting explanations of why he started this conflict, including suggesting that Iran would have attacked the U.S. within weeks and that the threat of a nuclear Iran was simply intolerable.
Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III.
But despite his assertions, the administration still hasn't provided evidence of just what exactly Iran was conspiring to do. That's something lawmakers will likely press Gabbard and others on.
Willie, how might yesterday's resignation of Joe Kent as director of the Counter-Terrorism Center play into those hearings?
In his resignation letter, Kent said that Iran posed no imminent threat to the U.S. Gabbard rejected that assertion on social media, saying ultimately it's up to Trump to decide what is and is not an imminent threat. But lawmakers will likely use Kent's resignation as fodder to pressure Gabbard on the subject.
That's Willie Lowry in our Washington bureau. Thank you,
That's
Willie.
My
Lowry
pleasure.
in our Australia is grappling with shortages of fuel created by the Iran war. The Prime Minister is calling a special cabinet meeting. But Anthony Albanese is assuring his country the situation is not yet a crisis.
We know that we do have fuel security. All of our ships have arrived at this point in time, but we've had a surge in demand, which is leading to some shortages in some areas.
Last week, Australia announced it will release gas and diesel from its domestic reserves to ease shortages in rural areas. After a 29-hour nationwide blackout, Cuba's power grid is back online. More than 10 million people were plunged into darkness as the United States choked off the island's fuel supply. Here is U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Cuba has an economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system that can't fix it. So they have to change dramatically. So they've got some big decisions to make.
On social media, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel is pushing back against those comments. He says the U.S. plans to take over Cuba, its resources, and its properties. The Bank of Canada will make an announcement on interest rates later this morning. Amid economic uncertainty and the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, many economists are expecting the central bank to hold its key lending rate. It's been at 2.25% since October. Quebec's finance minister, Éric Girard, is about to present his last budget before a new premier takes over from François Legault in 3 weeks, and Quebecers vote in a provincial election this fall. As Cathy Sini reports, in a time of global turmoil, Girard is promising a sober and responsible budget.
L'ampleur du phénomène est inacceptable.
Hélène Côté is the head of the main food bank in the Quebec City region. The number of people who need help has gone up dramatically in the last few years. She hopes she'll receive funds when Finance Minister Éric Girard tables Quebec's budget Wednesday.
Et on n'y arrive plus.
But Girard warns Quebecers that they shouldn't expect cash to help fill up their gas tanks.
No specific release for gas prices.
He believes it's too soon to act on fuel costs, even if prices at the pump have gone way up in some places due to the war in the Middle East.
These are geopolitical and military considerations, and until we know whether this situation is temporary or permanent, we cannot make the decision as to how to react.
Girard remains prudent with future economic growth, as the trade war with Donald Trump's tariffs have been affecting the aluminum and the forestry sectors.
The current situation is extremely unstable.
He says he won't present an election budget, even though Quebecers will head to the polls in the fall.
What we've done is we've reserved some amount for some announcement by the new leaders.
But he is hinting that whoever takes over from Premier François Legault in a few weeks' time won't have their hands too tied. Cathy Sini, CBC News, Quebec City.
The federal government is going to the Supreme Court of Canada to try to justify its use of the Emergencies Act. In 2022, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the act to clear the convoy protests in Ottawa and at border points. A lower court ruled that decision was unlawful and infringed on protesters' charter rights. A spokesperson for the Justice Minister says he's bringing the case before Canada's top court to ensure the government has the tools it needs to protect public order and national security. The Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians is voicing concerns about Ontario's plan to change its transparency law. If the revisions pass, Premier Doug Ford, cabinet ministers, and parliamentary aides will be exempt from Freedom of Information requests. As Michelle Song reports, the association warns that could erode trust between the government and Indigenous communities.
the government needs to be transparent.
Deputy Grand Chief of the Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians, Stacia Loft, says freedom of information requests are important for Indigenous communities to understand how the government comes to a decision, especially those that affect their communities, such as infrastructure projects like the Ring of Fire and building high-speed rail.
That is part of good governance. And if First Nations don't see that good governance is happening, well, that is, that just exacerbates that issue of trust.
Criticism has been growing since the announcement last week to potentially change Ontario's access to information law. But Premier Doug Ford says he's following the federal standard.
95% will be FOIable, but cabinet confidentiality, personal conversations. That's not for a public to review.
He already has exemptions.
Lawyer Jessica Orkin specializes in Aboriginal law and files FOI requests as well. She says under current rules, records that are deemed personal are not disclosed. There are also exceptions for cabinet confidences.
I think we know that what is now not going to be disclosed are the things that politicians and ministers in particular most want to hide.
The association is calling on the government to rethink any legislative changes and says if there is any impacts to Indigenous rights, it could be challenged. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in our CBC studios in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app and on YouTube. Mopping up from yesterday. Still some wind and some snow today, but we will start a melt in a period of warmer conditions that should take away some of what happened. I know it evoked a lot of different feelings in our house for sure. I think I just pulled up the blinds and the cupboards and said, tomorrow will be better. This hour on CBC, a Manitoba Bear Rescue says it might have to close its doors. We'll hear more about what's going on there. Also, oil prices continue to climb, rising tensions in the Middle East as we continue to report to you. We're going to dig into how today's Bank of Canada decision could impact Canadians and businesses' bottom lines. And speaking of the bottom lines, if you're a producer, then you know that you're watching the price of fertilizer closely. We recently did some stories about CBC Manitoba checking in with producers here as they watch how fertilizer prices are skyrocketing worldwide. So we will get some analysis of that and what it looks like this morning all across the prairies, so stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Welsh. She's here with other headlines ahead of her cast at 6:30. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Well, a woman who lost her brother to an overdose is disappointed the province isn't planning to open new rapid access to addictions medicine clinics. Lee Earnshaw died in 2021. An inquest judge recommended new RAM clinics be added, but Shared Health says it's not planning to open new sites. So we'll hear more about that. As well, 11-year-old Theo Osborne is dancing again about a month after he was assaulted at a Steinbach middle school. He is a member of Pimachikamak Cree Nation. His mom says she wasn't happy with the school's response. She says the bullying continued after Theo went back to class and they were forced to transfer their son to a different school. We'll get an update in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
Heather, how'd you feel when you saw that snow come down?
Oh, a little deflated, but I knew, spring is starting officially later this week, and there's got to be good things that come with that.
Right. I also felt deflated. I felt surprisingly deflated. I didn't think it was going to affect me that much. I thought, okay. But I think it was cold. It started accumulating. It was blowing sideways.
It seemed like it was more than they said.
Yeah, it sure did. Well, the good news is, as Heather alluded to, we are going to see a period now of above normal conditions, or maybe seasonal conditions, I should say, but above zero. So Abby is in with our promising forecast. Hi, Abby.
Yes, Marcy. We are waking up to mostly cloudy skies, though some freezing drizzle still spotted in some parts of the southern region, and tracking light snow moving out towards the northern part of the province. Now, while temperatures down south is going to be hovering between 1 degree right now in the Morden Melita area, up all the way to -10 in the Brandon area. Up north, we're seeing temperatures close to, let's just say, around -28 and in the Churchill region this morning. This transition in the south is going to be bringing more like some messy commute this morning because we still have snow, like frozen snow on some major routes, so you might want to take it easy. Slippery conditions for Winnipeg right now. We're starting the day at -6 under cloudy conditions. I spotted some fog patches on my way in. That should lift as we get into the morning. Now, as that warmer air overrides the cloud, the cold ground rather, just expect a bit of slippery conditions through the morning. We're heading for a high of 1 degree today. So do I say finally I can say +1?
Yes, please stay there.
Yeah, +1. I kind of like that.
I know. You had to get your boots out this morning again, right?
I know I had to get the boots out this morning. -10 around the Brandon area, -1 in the Morden area, -12 in the Par, and of course -28 in the Churchill region. Wind chill up north, actually, Marcy still feels in the range of -40s.
Yep. So I don't know how you're feeling this morning, Manitoba, especially here in Winnipeg, where we got the dump of snow and we hadn't had it, right? So we're babies. Up north, they're laughing at us, and out west, where they've had tons. But so our team is deflated, pulling out the boots. Corey, you boycotted shoveling, I heard.
Yes, I'm just gonna let it melt. I'm just not. I don't care if I have to trudge through like across the driveway.
We had this classic prairie reaction. Corey and I were watching Newsnet this morning, and they're getting a lot of rain in BC, which is becoming an issue for them. However,
but there was flowers in the background from the meteorologist I was reporting. You're like, you're fine. It's like, come on, it's like you don't need to rub it in. Like, it looks so lush, and it's like, oh no, you're getting rain.
It was so pretty, that shot. It was so vibrantly green.
I know, you could smell probably the moisture in the air sounds so nice, and then there's
it'll happen. Yeah. This is the push. It's the push time of year. Okay, so this is also, the drive could be tricky because of all this, right?
Yeah, totally. Actually, I was looking at Manitoba 501. The highways actually aren't as bad as I thought they would be, especially, the Highway 1 seems like it's okay. There's no closed highways in the province right now. But the worst highways seem to be kind of actually northern central Manitoba. I'm talking about Grand Rapids, the Paw area right now being reported as poor visibility and covered conditions as well. But here in the city, haven't heard of any major issues yet. But if you want to give me an update on anything that you're seeing across the province, if you're walking your bike and you're driving, would love to hear from you. That number to call 204-788-3093.
Well, Black Bear Rescue Manitoba says they are worried they might have to close their doors. They're the organization I was alluding to off the top. Over the years, they've rehabilitated over 100 bears. Now, a company has put in an application for a quarry, though, in the RM of Rockwood. Now, that's about half a mile from the bear rescue. Judy Stearns is founder of the Black Bear Rescue Manitoba. She spoke with CBC's Faith Fundal about this.
Hi, Faith.
Why is a quarry such a big deal for the bears in your care?
Well, we started Black Bear Rescue Manitoba in its current location because we're off the beaten path and we're down a quiet country road, which these orphan cubs need. They arrive to us in a compromised and stressed state already. They're often emaciated or anemic, and some of them are near death, and they need a quiet, peaceful place to spend the summer and get their health back. And it's just not conducive to having all the loud noise of a quarry right next door.
What was the last bear or cubs that you got?
We've got 3 here right now. We've got Valor, Xavier, and Wesley, and they all just turned a year old, and they came in too late in the fall to fatten up and release in time, so they're spending the winter with us.
For people who have never been near a quarry or have ever heard a quarry, just how loud can it get?
It can get loud. We're sometimes feeling our house vibrate and our windows shake with loud blasts that are about 3 miles away. So to have a quarry half a mile away, I don't know what that would be like. It would, even if there's a berm, we would be impacted by noise from a quarry, and the bears especially so. They're a timid, noise-sensitive animal, so I just don't see how it's conducive at all to continuing our rescue.
You mentioned there are other quarries near you. Were you surprised to hear that another one would open?
Well, that's the thing. Everyone here knows that Stonewall was started because of, and it was a quarry town. That's the reason for the town and this area. However, traditionally, and where it is now, the quarry area is a few miles away from here, and it's always been east of Highway 236. And now this one would be leaping the highway by a couple of miles into a non-quarried green farmland area very quiet. So it would be an anomaly. So even people who have lived in the area for generations, they're surprised and taken aback and shocked that this could possibly be in an area that's not quarried right now.
Do you have any other options? If this does go ahead, can you move the bear rescue?
It's not an easy thing to move a bear rescue. I mean, it's a little different than a business where you might be in one building and you have a shop, but a bear rescue, we've got all our enclosures and we have nowhere to go. I mean, where would we go? There's no place for the bears to go. If we have to move and close shop here, there's nowhere to go.
What are you hoping will happen? Because there's a public hearing on Thursday. What are you hoping to hear there?
Well, the public hearing is the democratic process for these types of things. When someone applies for a quarry, the RM hears both sides, and this is the opportunity for them to hear both sides, and then they make their decision. We're obviously hoping that they will vote no.
Do you plan on speaking at the public hearing?
I will be doing a presentation at the public hearing on Thursday, March 19th, 6 p.m. at the Stony Mountain Community Center. There are also two other public hearings that are going to be held tonight at the same place at 6 and 8 p.m. We'll be attending that, but not presenting.
If there was one message that the RM hears from you, that you hope it hears from you, what is that message?
Save the bears. Save the bear rescue. Sorry, I get choked up talking about it. Us and Manitobans and Canadians and people around the world are very invested in this, and they love the rescue. It's very beloved. It's the only option for the orphan cubs in Manitoba. So please save our rescue. And dust landing on their grass and in their water, and there's a possibility even that with quarrying you can fracture the aquifer and people's wells get polluted, and there's a chance that our well could become contaminated and our water polluted, the bears' water source. You can't just go to the store and buy bottled water for bears to fill up their huge pools that they drink from. But it's beautiful and peaceful here right now, and the bears are enjoying their hibernation. And if there's a quarry blasting regularly across the field from in the winter, I mean, how can we function?
That's Judy Stearns, the founder of Black Bear Rescue Manitoba, in conversation with CBC Manitoba's Faith Fundal. Now, CBC reached out to the arm of Rockwood. We have not yet heard back. The company, though, behind the quarry, Amory's, did provide us, with a statement. In it, Amory's said, quote, "The project will comply with all municipal and provincial regulations, including environmental and setback requirements. An initial instruction phase is approximately 2 kilometers from the nearby Black Bear Rescue Centre, and the haul route is intentionally designed to avoid the facility." As a longstanding member of the community, Amory's remains committed to responsible operations, strong environmental stewardship, and ongoing community engagement. End quote. So that's the statement we got from the company, and we will see tomorrow, as you heard, there's going to be some movement on this story, so we'll certainly cover it. 6:21 a.m. the time right now. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and it's -6 in Winnipeg. Winds are calm. Well, we continue to cover and watch what's going to be happening later today financially, because the Bank of Canada will announce its latest interest rate decision. The benchmark rate is widely expected to stay at 2.25%. Canada's annual inflation rate fell to 1.8% in February. That's down from 2.3% the month before. But now war in the Middle East and rising oil prices will add to the uncertainty about the economy. Viet Vu is here to walk us through everything. He's Manager of Economic Research at the DAIS at Toronto Metropolitan University. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what do you expect the Bank of Canada is going to say later today, and what it's going to mean for our economy?
Well, the same thing that you just said earlier, which is that the consensus being that the bank will hold its rate steady. There are two potential scenarios for why the BOC might decide this. The first scenario is when the bank sees the economy in a balanced state that requires no intervention, which is positive. But unfortunately, we're not in it right now. The second scenario is because the bank sees so much uncertainty and foggy signals that force them to wait instead of acting too quickly in the wrong direction. That's the situation we're in. Back in November, we were more in that first scenario that I described, but things got complicated since then.
So the war in the Middle East obviously is the biggest complication, which, as you said, could change the timeline for the Bank of Canada. If a change isn't expected later today, that's still what will they be watching for, and when might we see something in terms of the timeline?
Well, the war in the Middle East is one complicating factor, but it's just one out of many factors. We also had a weak jobs report that, albeit still noisy, pushes the bank towards lowering the rate perhaps. But if inflation continues, because that February number feels like a blip given what happened in February of 2025, the bank will want to increase rates. Where the conflict in the Middle East can push prices up is when it impacts oil prices. But the bank will likely only act if that conflict persists and impacts oil prices in the medium run, because they know raising rates right now will weaken that job market even further.
Specifically, how are rising oil prices and the situation in Iran affecting inflation in Canada then?
Well, in economics, there is a concept called the law of one price that says that if there are no trade frictions, identical goods sold in different places should have the same price. Oil is one of the few commodities that have little trade frictions because it is so vital. And so instead of having a Canadian oil price and a Middle East oil price, we have a single world price for oil. And when global supply goes down, global prices go up. And the blockades in the Strait of Hormuz, because of the war in Iran, have disrupted 1/5 of daily oil volumes. Higher oil prices will likely show up in March's inflation numbers, and if conflict persists, in April's numbers too.
How long do the price jumps stick around when you look to the future? Are they temporary? I mean, I guess the proper question is if they're going up now, how quickly can they bounce back? How nimble is this? Is the price of oil?
Yeah, so I think the persistence of oil prices is really a question between the short run, so really the next month or two, and the medium run in the next 6 months or so. That's because we do have a lot of tools that can ensure that even if the war in the Middle East persists, for oil prices to come down and stabilize. The war in Ukraine provided a good example, where oil prices were only unstable towards the beginning. And that's because countries can invest in increasing production at home, say in Alberta and elsewhere in the country, to compensate for the disrupted supply and allow prices to stabilize, or for excess supply in other places to be released. That's what the US is considering with their strategic reserves, or even sometimes to create new routes to move oil that avoids the blockade, or perhaps to override the blockade overall.
How does the bank's decision that's coming today affect business?
Well, the interest rate and how high it is directly determines how easy it is for companies to obtain capital and invest in their businesses. The interest rate is the price of money, and the lower that price is, the easier time businesses have to get money. You can see this dynamic play out most prominently in the tech sector, which relies on high-risk capital that's only available in low-interest rate environments, who have evidently struggled ever since interest rates started going up in 2022. But the good news here is that the Bank of Canada only ever chooses to put people and businesses in tough places to ensure that those same people and businesses have the best chance to survive in the medium term.
What do you think, Viet, looking ahead, the biggest risks and opportunities that are going to be for Canada's economy in the coming months ahead, given that everything is so foggy, as you put it?
Well, the big news stories, fortunately, will have remained the same as last month. CUSMA renegotiations will likely begin, but given the situation in Iran, access to Canadian oil and LNG now provide further leverage for the Canadian government, which is an opportunity. Then there's the situation in Iran itself, a human tragedy, but also because of how long the energy supply chain is disrupted, will end up shaping economies, including some investment decisions that could be made in Alberta and beyond, on top of geopolitical implications. Third and finally is the job market. There has been a slowdown in hiring due to uncertainty, and though the February jobs report looked bad initially, we already know that hiring has slowed down. And this jobs report can't easily tell us that the job losses that we saw are because of mass layoffs or just declining populations due to lower immigrations. So lots to keep track on that still.
All right. Appreciate your time, as always. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
That's Viet Vu with us live via Zoom, Manager of Economic Research at the DAIS at Toronto Metropolitan University, where we reached him this morning in Toronto.
A window cleaner that cleans well beyond windows. Bubble wrap as wallpaper. And what's with the lizard and the weight loss drugs? It's a floor wax and dessert topping, unintended product uses on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland, and on demand on CBC Listen.
Just want to take a moment to mention a couple of community outreach things that are coming up. One of them is on April 1st and 2nd, spring break and the week of the Royal Winter Fair in Brandon. We're going to be there broadcasting live. So Chez Angela is our location in downtown Brandon, a thriving business and really community minded. So we're looking forward to reconnecting with their story on April 1st. We're still confirming our location for Information Radio April 2nd. I'm talking about all this because if you are listening from Brandon and you've got a story or someone you think should be featured on the show, whether they have a story to share or it's an interview or an issue that you think should be raised on your public broadcaster, or maybe it's something more featurey, as we say. Maybe you have an artist that you think should be highlighted or someone that should play some live tunes. We're going to be in Brandon. So that's coming up fast, 2 weeks from today. And if you want to give us a call, you can. Pitch us at 788-3205, or you can email us, radio893@cbc.ca. The other community-minded thing that I wanted to mention is congratulations to the producers and those who organized and all who took part in CBC Manitoba's first ever Manitoba Talks event, which was connecting people who otherwise wouldn't sit down on various topics, maybe have different opinions, but instead of letting it send them back into their echo chambers and be polarizing, they agreed to talk. This was held on Saturday, and so just wanted to say thank you to all of the people who took part in building our community to be a more inclusive place where we can all discuss anything, anytime with the mind, with an eye to improving our lives in our shared home. It is, as I mentioned, -6 in Winnipeg. We'll have a full forecast in a moment. And then we have business news and we'll update your commute. Right now, though, your CBC Newscast from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. Well, the snow is gone. There's still a risk of freezing drizzle in Winnipeg today. We are at -6 right now. We will be melting, a high this afternoon of 1. 11-year-old Theo Osborne is dancing again, about a month after he was assaulted at a Steinbach middle school. Theo is a member of Pimicikamat Cree Nation. He suffered a concussion, lost a tooth, and had some hair pulled out in the attack at Stony Brook Middle School in Steinbach. His mom, Melissa Johnson, says she wasn't happy with the school's response. She says the bullying continued after Theo went back to class.
He used to dance every day for like 2 hours a day. He'd make me go watch him in the living room and he'd practice, but then after that happened, he wasn't dancing anymore.
Theo and his family decided to transfer him to Steinbach's Clear Spring Middle School, and Johnson says her son will continue healing through dance. Manitoba isn't planning to open any new rapid access to addiction medicine clinics. This just months after an inquest judge said more of those facilities are needed to reflect a growing need. The province has 7 RAM clinics. Shared Health says it's focused at enhancing access to services through a virtual appointment system. Carol Packer is disappointed. She lost her brother to an overdose in 2021, months after he was turned away from a Winnipeg RAM clinic.
There's a commitment that they need to expand the existing sites. They haven't solved the actual barriers and wait times.
Manitoba's addictions minister says the province is committed to addressing the overdose crisis. The government says it has added more than 1,500 addiction treatment spots and expanded RAM clinics. The organization representing Manitoba school boards is defending school divisions for raising taxes. The province forecasts a 22% increase in education property tax revenue this fiscal year, and several school divisions have proposed hefty increases to their mill rates for the next year. Manitoba School Boards Association President Alan Campbell says divisions are making up for chronic underfunding under the previous PC government, and although provincial funding has improved under the NDP, Campbell says some divisions feel it isn't keeping pace with rising costs.
Our only other source of revenue is indeed the provincial government. And we have offered that message to Minister Sala and Minister Schmidt very plainly, that the provincial government needs to do more to fund education in this province.
Finance Minister Adrian Sala maintains the NDP is funding education adequately. A woman has told a Winnipeg court she once had suspicions about her husband's involvement in the 2019 beating death of one of his co-workers. CBC's Austin Shebek-Haggett was in court.
The woman testified she was beyond blindsided to learn her husband was interviewed by police about his coworker's killing. She was also stunned to learn the coworker had filed a sexual harassment complaint against him the year before. CBC News is not naming the woman killed to protect the identity of her son, who's charged with second-degree murder in connection to her death and was 16 at the time. His lawyer, James Lockyer, is arguing that the woman's co-worker is an alternative suspect in her killing because she'd expressed fears about him after making the complaint. On Tuesday, the 54-year-old man's estranged wife testified that they're separated but still living together. She said the turning point of their marriage was when he told her, "I can't wait to make you disappear," during an argument. She also testified that her husband said he was glad that his coworker was dead. She said he called her twice before the hearing to tell her that Lockyer is not someone to be trusted and that the lawyer is kind of nasty. The trial is expected to continue until April. Austin Shebek-Haggett, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Iran's army is vowing a decisive retaliation for the killing of Iran's security chief. Israel killed Ali Larijani in an airstrike yesterday, and overnight Iran fired back by launching a series of missiles at Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Israel vows to kill the rest of the Iranian leadership, including the new Ayatollah, who has yet to make a public appearance. Some Iranian officials have said the new Ayatollah is lightly wounded, but few details are being released. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Celebrating a vibrant history of musicals in Steinbach. The Steinbach Arts Council is launching Broadway Moments featuring generations of local singers, among them Chris Winkler, who says he hasn't performed on stage in decades.
We ended up having just a really amazing time being creative together. It's not something we've done a lot of before.
Broadway Moments runs Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights at Steinbach Regional Secondary School Theatre. Well, a late goal forcing overtime for the Winnipeg Jets.
Here's a throw by Taves, and he scores!
Winnipeg's Jonathan Taves in the third period, but the Jets lose it in a shootout. Nashville gets the 4-3 win. Still, Winnipeg gets a point. Jonathan Taves says the Jets are showing resolve.
Going down the stretch, you're going to be some tight games, so it's nice to have some confidence we can go out there and whether it's our power play or our six-man unit to score one late and get back in a game like that.
Now, the Jets' homestand is over with Winnipeg notching 5 wins out of those 8 games. Hitting the road now for 3 games. The first is in Boston tomorrow night. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Did I ever share with you on the air or with listeners the story about community theater in Steinbach?
No.
So when I lived there and reported there, because I worked for AM 1250 radio and I was part of the team that helped, when they were launching Light 97 over there too, right, years ago. So I was like, I was young. It was my 20s and I was trying to get into the community. So I joined community theater. So we were on stage at the SRSS doing a show and we had a run all week. And it's always been a very vibrant community for that. So it was just awesome. Worked with some great people. Good way to meet people in Steinbach, Heather. But one night we're doing this show and it was like a murder mystery. I can't believe I never told you this. So the detective, at some point, he had this flip chart and he was through the show. He was like flipping and flipping, right? And on the last page was like sort of the whodunit answer. And I was just playing the maid or something, right? It was a classic sort of over the top whodunit. But this poor guy like lost his place and he like forgot what he was saying and he like forgot his lines. So all of a sudden he flipped it and the pages stuck together and he was like solving the crime. And it was like early in the play and everyone froze. So,
did he reveal the winner too soon?
Yeah, like the murderer. Like, so
was it the maid?
Was sort of showing. It wasn't the maid, but no one was saying anything, and no one knew what to do. So everyone was standing there, and then I just sort of slid over. Like I walked over to the chart, and I was like, I had some stupid accent, which I will not repeat here, but for my character, because I did it so poorly. But I looked at him and I said, "I'm not sure what you're talking about, sir. Don't you mean this?" And I flipped the charts back.
Mercy for the save.
It was so clumsy. It was just terrible, but we all had a big laugh. It was so much fun. And honestly, all those productions and all those towns and communities and cities, and they're just such a great way to meet your friends and neighbors and blow off some steam.
Especially, you know what, when it's winter and there's not a lot going on, for sure.
Yeah. So, that's
a
my
great
fond
story.
memory. All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Maybe not the most suspenseful production you ever saw. Okay, let's get to what's happening. We have been waiting to hear what's been going on with the forecast. Today we'll take a turn. We still are mopping up from yesterday's snow, though, Abby.
Yeah, still mopping up from yesterday, waking up to mostly cloudy skies with some frizzle and drizzle still spotted here and there in some regions down south, while light snow kind of moving out of the northern region. It's still falling there, but once the system moves out, we should see a mix of sun and clouds. Down south, temperatures hovering between 1 and -10 with highs. We'll see highs like around 3 degrees and even 0 in some areas. For Winnipeg right now, we're looking at temperatures hovering around 6 degrees. That's where -6. That's where we're going to stay most of the morning. Partly cloudy conditions. We're tracking partly cloudy conditions at the airports and other forks. It's going to be mainly cloudy for today. We warm up to a daytime high of 1 for today, and in the southern regions, it's still going to remain largely grey. Not much of sunshine coming our way today, but it will be a cool one. For the Pembina Valley region, we're looking at temperatures around -1 in the Modern Winkler area now. Expect a slim chance of flurries, breezy winds. Highs will be around 3 degrees. For Brandon, all the way towards Nipawin, we're starting off around -10, spotting some foggy conditions there. Expect a slim chance of showers later. Breezy northwest winds and highs also warming up to 3 degrees. Duffin towards Russell, we're seeing currently clear conditions there, -9 at this time. You do warm up to 0 later in the day. For Gimli, good morning. You're currently sitting at -7. You also warm up to 0. You get to stay around that freezing point. For the northern region, where we're seeing temperatures between -12 around the Par and -28 as we travel towards the Churchill region, where we have no warnings, but it's still pretty cold. We're looking at -12 in the Par, -13 in Flin Flon, daytime highs around -2. And for Thompson, towards the Nelson House area and Split Lake region, as well as Lynn Lake, current conditions there, we're seeing light snow falling around -15s and -14s respectively. Expect a mix of sun and clouds once the system moves out. Highs will be around -5. While for Gillam towards Tudule Lake, also light snow falling there. Temperature sitting between -21 and -25. While in Churchill, we are looking at temperatures around -28 at this time. A good chance of morning flurries we're tracking there. And of course, wind chill around -41.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
With a quick check on our morning commute, Corey's here.
Yeah, it's been quiet so far. Haven't heard of any issues in the city. Much calmer than it was yesterday afternoon, that's for sure. The highways actually seem to be doing okay, at least here in southern Manitoba. But it looks like around the Pas, Grand Rapids area, those highways there, Lynn Lake as well, further north, are being reported with poor visibility and covered conditions on Manitoba 511. So careful if you're on those highways. Would love to get an update from folks, what you're seeing out there if you're walking, biking, driving. You can give me a call. I think today is officially the first day of pothole season, now that we're kind of going to be hovering up and down. So if you see any new potholes, points for you. You can give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Before you go, there's something special coming up on Friday we want to mention.
That's right. So our colleagues at Radio Canada, they are hosting a live show at the Centre Cultural Franco-Manitoba for the International Day of Francophonie. So they are going to be celebrating Friday morning at CCFM, having a live show. Their show's called 6 à 9, so they're going to be there from 6 to 9. And they want you to stop by. And if you are a Francophone, come on down and share, why you love being a Francophone, what you want to see in Manitoba to strengthen French language, and just to talk a little bit about what you love about the French language.
Yeah, it's we'll mention it a couple of times actually leading up to Friday. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a really good show, live on location, as Corey mentioned, on Friday morning. So head on over and see my counterpart. The host of that show is Jeremy Laniel, and then Kai Hasselrees, who is one of the producers on the show. So yeah, go say hi, tell them what you love, as Corey said, about French in Manitoba and about being Francophone, and also what challenges come with that as well. We'll tell you more about that as the days go on here. Right now, let's talk business news with Christely Ramlakan at 6:42 a.m. Hello to you.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So many Canadians continue to struggle to pay their bills every month. You have new data about it, right?
Yeah, a new survey has found nearly half of Canadians say they are living paycheck to paycheck. So they are feeling the financial squeeze of the cost of housing and groceries, and now the rising price of gas due to the war in the Middle East. So 1 out of 3 people is unable to pay off their credit card bills each month, and that's according to data from Vividata. And as we know, credit card interest rates can be very high as 30%. And not paying off your credit card balance makes it even harder to get ahead as people are paying off debt instead of saving. So Canadians carrying credit card balances report even higher levels of financial strain, with 68% saying they have less disposable income. And younger Canadians ages 25 to 34 are the most likely to hold credit card balances, personal loans, and other forms of consumer debt. And almost 3/4 of people say rising costs are making them more careful about how they spend, which of course can affect businesses. And it's not just credit cards. Housing debt and expensive car loans are adding pressure on many Canadians. And, if you don't pay your bills on time, it can hurt your credit score, meaning you could be denied a loan or pay higher interest rates.
You have another story next. A prediction market company that has been garnering some controversy, actually, is now facing criminal charges. What are the details?
Yes, that's right. The first ever criminal charges have been filed against Kalshi in the U.S. It's being accused of running an illegal gambling operation, and the case is a serious escalation in the ongoing battle between prediction market sites and governments over how the industry should be regulated. So Arizona's Attorney General, this is where the case is, says the criminal charges are warranted because Kalshi offers gambling, not futures contracts. So prediction markets have really exploded in recent months, and traders now spend about $5 billion US each week on sites such as Kalshi and Polymarket. And interest in the industry has spiked after allegations of insider trading as well. So prediction market sites let users wager on everything from elections to sports to business to entertainment. And this case specifically mentions Kalshi's election-related markets, which have increased in popularity since the U.S. presidential election in 2024. Now, Kalshi is not available in Canada, but there has been an increase in sports betting in our country. So for more on this, here's Danny Funt, who is a journalist who covers prediction markets.
The problem is if we label this as investing, as a real way for people to leverage their knowledge and make money, as opposed to gambling. And in Canada and the US and all over the world, we're seeing rising rates of problem gambling. And if this adds to the confusion of seducing people into thinking they can turn this into a money-making opportunity, that I think is genuinely dangerous.
Now, Kalshi denies any wrongdoing. It says this case is paper thin and claims prediction markets can only be regulated by the federal government in the U.S., not the state here. And Polymarket is also not facing any criminal charges.
And finally, on your report today, Lululemon is making some changes.
Yes, that's right. So Lululemon's interim leaders say change is taking shape at the brand, which has been battered with criticism from its estranged founder. The retailer plans to shake up its product assortment with fewer logos, a more focused and coordinated color palette, and a more edited assortment of small accessories. So the goal is to leave the brand with collections that feel fresher and inspire more customers to pay full price, addressing past consumer gripes about a lack of newness, and moving Lululemon away from some of the discounting that's been happening lately at the brand. The company's CEO departed at the end of January. Now, under him, Lululemon sales actually tripled. Its menswear division was expanded, and the company landed some buzzy deals with Canada's Olympic team, as we saw, and the NHL and the NFL. But its share price also dramatically eroded, and competitors like Alo have started stealing customers away. So founder Chip Wilson has been pushing for Lululemon to revamp its brand and creative strategy. He hasn't worked at the company for years, but still holds stock in the company. And the company also says it plans to improve the customer experience with less density of product to better showcase new styles deals and innovations, and to make it easier to shop and navigate the stores.
I wondered when we were going to start hearing stories about Aloe, which is probably the most direct competition they've had in a number of years when you think about it. So, all right, thanks very much, Crystal. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Marcy.
Crystal Ramlickham with Business News. You're on CBC Manitoba. It's 12 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's get in a couple minutes of Alan Doyle. Why? Because he's in town tonight, Centennial Concert Hall. And congrats to Noel Bowles, who's going to be going tonight. Recently won 2 tickets in our contest following an interview we have with Alan Doyle. I think I said Boyle by accident, although I'm a big fan of the former Great Big Sea frontman. Here he is with a song from his latest solo EP, though. This is Take It Easy With Me on CBC 89.3 FM.
Living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady, you can take it from me. Do you want to come lie where the sun shines high? Do you want to take it easy with me? My home sweet home is where the cold wind blows, but I'm hoping I can hold you in the heat. Will you take my hand where the water meets the sand? Do you want to take it easy with me? I know you've done your time in the 9 to 5, and I've been busy beating up a beat. Do you want to come hide behind a margarita line? Do you want to take it easy with me? Do you want to come down where the beach is brown and the living and the loving is free? If you want to steal away, we can chill in the shade in a secret hacienda by the sea. Living is hard if you take it to heart, my lady. From me. Do you wanna come lie where the sun shines high? Do you wanna take it easy with me? There's an old hotel, oh I know it so well. There's a bar stool with my name on the seat. Do you wanna come slide up to the stool next to mine? Do you wanna take it easy with me? And when the daylight's died, there's a band I like, cause they're always playing everything in 3. Do you want a slow dance where we don't need pants? Do you want to take it easy with me? Do you want to come down when there's no one around and the seagulls are sound asleep? Do you want to spend the night with the windows open wide and we can be together in the breeze?
Alan Doyle, take it easy with me. Maybe he'll play this tonight in Winnipeg when he plays the Centennial Concert Hall. If you want to check out Corey's interview with him, which was delightful, you can find that on the CBC Listen app. You're listening to 89.3 FM, CBC Information Radio, your morning show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining all of us today. Corey Funk, our studio director, as well as Darren Marash, our producer of YouTube, and Abby Adiyemi behind the controls. Well, next to the show for Canadian farmers, planting season's weeks away, but this year farmers might have to contend with unexpected challenges, including affected by the war in Iran. I'm talking about supply chain disruptions. They're caused by the war. They've led to spikes in the price of fuel and fertilizer, 2 big expenses for farmers. CBC Manitoba has been speaking to producers here about this. Andrew James farms with his brother in the rural municipality of Springfield. He locked in his fertilizer prices in late October, including urea, but at the time he spent just under $350,000 on fertilizer. For comparison here, if he had to buy fertilizer for his farm right now, he says it would cost him an additional $140,000 because of what's happening with the supply chain and the prices. So Stuart Smith is an agriculture economist over at the University of Saskatchewan to weigh in on what this looks like across the prairies. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what are you hearing across the prairies in terms of how the increases of fertilizer and fuel are impacting farmers in this country right now?
Yeah, that was really interesting insight from the farmer you talked about. I was chatting with my students yesterday morning about this very topic, and one of the students said, their dad had phoned around to a couple of fertilizer delivery points and looking for nitrogen. And there was none to be had. That they said they could not guarantee the delivery of any nitrogen fertilizer in the short term. So that's fortunately the farmer you were talking about had ordered everything last fall, saved some money. But any farmer that's in the situation where they didn't fully order and lock in those prices for their nutrient needs for the coming weeks are going to face those higher prices. Fertilizer prices are up about 30% in the last couple months.
How much, for people that don't know, like how much fertilizer is coming through affected by what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz? And is it all kinds of different fertilizer? I mentioned urea. I hope I'm saying that correctly. You're talking about nitrogen. How much of the market's affected?
So it's predominantly the fertilizer that's produced Russia, Belarus, some of the North African fertilizer, but it's only the fertilizers that's sort of flowing into that India, throughout Asia. So, if there's any good news, the fertilizer that we import into Canada, it comes typically most of it from the U.S., but we do get some out of Algeria, Morocco, a little bit out of Western Europe. So at least the passage of fertilizer or the transportation of any of our nutrient needs don't have to go through that part of the world.
Got it. Is it right, though, that roughly a third of nitrogen fertilizer, for example, does go through that strait?
Yeah, that would be a reasonable estimate on what that would be. So, that's going to impact a lot of the food production in many food insecure parts of the world. Is that, if they just don't have the sufficient amount of nutrients, they're still going to have to plant their crops, but they're going to be expecting lower yields.
So for every person at the pump with, their vehicle, they're feeling the fuel prices right now. How's this affecting farmers, though?
Yeah, so that's another big cost. We've got the carbon tax set to go up in 2 weeks as well. So, the fuel requirements, that's a more challenging one because farmers, you talked in the lead up to the story, farmer had saved money because he locked in the price last fall. You can't do that with fuel, right? That is a point in time delivery cost. So whether the farmer's getting fuel today, next week, or the week after, they're going to have to incur those higher fuel costs. And farmers can't pass the higher cost of fertilizer or fuel onto anybody. Farmers take the price that's given. So whether they're producing beef or pork or wheat or even tomatoes, the processors say, this is the price we're going to give you. And the farmer then decides, okay, well, I'll either sell or I'll hold off and sell maybe next month. The price will be better for me. So farmers can't pass any of those costs on to anybody down the supply chain.
We talked about fertilizer, but specifically, what crops do you think are going to be most affected by what's happening with the fertilizer or the delay?
Yeah, that's the bad part. It affects every part of agriculture. So whether it's the smaller farms that are fruit and vegetable or the large grain farms out here, even the livestock and the dairy sector, right? They're putting nutrients down on their grass to make sure they've got good grazing conditions. They're putting it on their forage land to ensure that they're maximizing their hay yields for next winter. So there's really not a portion of agriculture that escapes this higher cost.
What can Canada do, the feds do at a policy level then to help farmers in the period of uncertainty here? Because we don't know how long this is going to go on either.
Right. So there may be some tariffs or import costs in place around, Canada imports about $2.5 billion worth of fertilizer annually. So making sure that there's no tariffs in place or costs on any of that. Maybe looking at all of the products that are delivered to farms over the next couple of months, whether it's fertilizer, seed, fuel, making that exempt from the carbon tax. That's one way of helping reduce the expense part of putting a crop in the ground this spring.
Thank you very much for your time on this. Appreciate you giving us that bigger picture.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a great rest of your day, Marcy.
Thanks, you as well. That is Stuart Smythe with us, agricultural economist at the University of Saskatchewan. If you want to read that story about Manitoba producers, it was just published a week ago at cbc.ca/Manitoba as they were weighing in on the cost of fertilizer here and how they're going to be impacted and already are impacted by what's happening in the Middle East. Coming up in the next hour of Information Radio, Manitoba continues to face housing and homelessness challenges. We're going to hear from a housing expert from Finland. They have made strides on tackling homelessness, and that expert is in Winnipeg actually today. There's a number of different people in Winnipeg, including the federal housing minister, to make a special announcement later this morning. We do not have specific details on that, but we will look at housing in other ways in the next hour of the program. In addition, it might sound too good to be true, but our host doctor says there's a simple thing you can do to increase the likelihood of a longer life. And cholesterol is involved here. So that is the topic of our medical column in the next hour. And then we continue the conversation about rent discounts this morning with a Winnipeg landlord's perspective. And that is ongoing coverage from a story we had yesterday where there were some concerns raised about rent discounts. Mostly cloudy in Winnipeg, -6. Today we're going to be around a high of 1 degree as things will melt. But we do have freezing drizzle conditions this morning in Winnipeg, some fog in Brandon and light snow up in Thompson. Be careful of the highways in central Manitoba around the Paw. Heather Wells is in now with headlines.
The Organization for Manitoba School Boards is defending school divisions for raising taxes. The school divisions, several of them, have proposed hefty increases in their mill rates for next year. We're going to hear why they feel they have to do that. And it's a musical about musicals. The Steinbach Arts Council celebrating the city's vibrant musical history this week with a special production, Broadway Moments. We'll hear all about it in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, World Report is next. That's the latest in your national and international news for this Wednesday, March 18th. Stay with us on CBC. 1 minute to 7.
On The Current.
There's certainly people out there, unfortunately, who are in that age range who have colorectal cancer but that don't know about it.
An increasing number of young adults are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer. The experts are still trying to understand why, but the Canadian Cancer Society recommends that the screening age for this cancer be lowered. How an early diagnosis can save lives, coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Iran is retaliating for Israel killing its security chief, Ali Larijani. Sirens in Tel Aviv warn of incoming Iranian missiles. At least 2 people have been killed by falling debris. There are also new attacks in numerous Gulf states, targeting oil fields and energy infrastructure. The war is causing an energy crisis around the world. The CBC's South Asia correspondent, Salima Shivji, has more from Mumbai.
The line of tuk-tuks and scooters outside this gas station in Colombo, Sri Lanka's capital, stretches around the block. Most have been here since before dawn. I've been queuing since 4:30, says driver Hussein Farouk. Others started this war, but we're the ones suffering, says fellow tuk-tuk driver Samuel Paris. Sri Lanka is one of several Asian countries that are rationing fuel and moving to a 4-day work week as the crunch for supplies deepens, with the war in Iran blocking ships carrying crucial oil and gas imports. Most countries in the region have said they only have enough in reserve for a few more weeks. So Pakistan has raised gas prices and moved schools to online teaching to save what it has. Bangladesh closed its universities and is using rotating blackouts. In Thailand, news anchors took off their suit blazers on air in support of a government suggestion that public servants show up to work in short sleeves, all to help save the fuel that powers air conditioners. In India, restaurants are shutting as they run out of cooking oil, with the government prioritizing supply to homes. But there is some relief, says Sushil Kumar Singh, chairman of the port in Kandla in western India, that saw a vessel, the Nanda Devi, arrive Tuesday morning.
And it has come with a parcel size of 46,500 metric tons of LPG.
It's one of 2 Indian flag ships that got through the Strait of Hormuz after direct talks with Iran that India's foreign minister is calling a win for diplomacy. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Lebanon's health ministry says Israeli strikes this morning on central Beirut have killed at least 12 people. Footage online shows a multi-story building collapsing. The Israeli military had issued a warning at 4 a.m. local time to evacuate the building and nearby area. This was one of 4 strikes to hit the central part of the city. The Reuters news agency says they were all within walking distance of Beirut's city center and the headquarters of the Lebanese government. The latest interest rate policy from the Bank of Canada will be announced later this morning. Heading into this meeting, the bank's key overnight lending rate stands at 2.25%. As Peter Armstrong reports, there is nearly unanimous agreement that's where it will stay.
If you're wondering whether the Bank of Canada is going to cut interest rates, just listen to none other than Tiff Macklem, Governor of the Bank of Canada himself, speaking about the limits of what changes in monetary policy can truly achieve.
Monetary policy can't target specific sectors. It can't target the hard-hit sectors, aluminum, steel, autos. It can't help companies find new markets. It can't help companies reconfigure their supply chains.
That was said when the Canadian economy was reeling from U.S. tariffs. Now, a whole new wave of uncertainty has crashed into the economy because of the war in Iran. That will drive up gasoline prices, cause shortages of critical inputs that also come from the Persian Gulf. Economist Don Drummond from Queen's University says the Bank of Canada's current interest rate level is about where it should be.
Yes, we're providing stimulus. Is it a huge amount of stimulus? Is it as much as it was a number of years ago? No, but there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy.
And the Bank of Canada will need to measure that uncertainty going forward and leave itself some wiggle room in case things get worse, not better. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
After years of political tension, Canadian businesses are attempting to break into the huge competitive Chinese market. Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit earlier this year improved diplomatic relations between Ottawa and Beijing. But, as Lisa Shing reports, there are still trade irritants that need to be resolved.
Ideally, the tariff gets off yesterday.
Chris White is head of the Canadian Meat Advocacy Office in Beijing. He set up shop last summer to establish a presence in China when the relationship between the two countries was tense and there were tariffs on a number of Canadian goods, including 25% on pork.
If you're out of a market that's an important market, that's frustrating. And if you don't know when you're going to back in, it's challenging.
Other industries like canola, peas, and lobster had their tariffs lifted or reduced after Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit with Chinese President Xi Jinping in January.
We need to keep coming. Ministers need to keep coming. Senior officials need to keep coming.
Despite this, White and other business leaders say they're optimistic there will be movement on these tariffs in the future and more deals will be made if Canadians are persistent.
You have everyone coming here, but then you have significant local players as well that are extremely competitive.
David Perez de Rosier is in charge of the Beijing office of the Canada-China Business Council and says the two countries could collaborate not just in trading goods, but energy, research, and services too.
Yes, the market is large, but at the same time, there's not space for everyone.
Which means they say both industries and the government need to show up and take advantage of the moment. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Beijing.
The federal government is going to the Supreme Court of Canada to try to justify its use of the Emergencies Act. In 2022, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the act to clear convoy protests in Ottawa and at border crossings. A lower court ruled that decision was unlawful and infringed on protesters' charter rights. Defense Minister David McGuinty says his department is on track to reach the NATO spending goal, 2% of GDP on the military. He'll be making an announcement on munitions at a plant near London, Ontario later this morning. Rafi Boudjikanian joins me from our Parliamentary Bureau. Rafi, Canada is ramping up defense spending, but this isn't about joining the current war effort in the Middle East.
That's right, Martina. In fact, the defense minister was once again emphatic when addressing Iran and the Middle East on Tuesday as he spoke to our colleague JP Tasker on Power and Politics.
We haven't jumped into the fray and entered into offensive capabilities because this is not our war. This is a war that was declared by Israel and the United States. We've been very clear from the beginning. We were not consulted, we have not been active, and we're not going to be active. I have said, however, that if any of the neighboring states in and around Iran may need some help from Canada, for example, on critical infrastructure, water systems, we'll take close note of that.
Now, McGuinty has been fairly consistent on this front, but it is the first time he's making these kinds of comments following the U.S. president first asking allied countries for help in opening up the Strait of Hormuz, and then kind of saying, you know what, it's fine, we don't need anyone's help, but NATO would be sorry it did not rise up to the occasion. McGuinty is insisting, however that call for help may have occurred, Canada was not on the phone. Martina?
Rafi, thanks for this.
You're welcome.
That is Rafi Boudjikanian in our Parliamentary Bureau. Politicians in Northern Ontario are asking the federal government for help with a notorious stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway. It's been a deadly winter on the roads that connect Nipigon, Sudbury, and North Bay. And local politicians want Ottawa to treat the matter as an issue of national security and nation building. Lisa Mayer has that story.
If you get in an accident in Northern Ontario, you're 3 times more likely to die than if you get in an accident in Southern Ontario.
Charles Sirtwell of the Northern Policy Institute is talking about the highways across the top of Lake Superior. As the only land route connecting eastern Canada with the west, it can be a choke point for travel and commerce. And after a string of fatal crashes this winter, Northwestern Ontario leaders are sounding the alarm.
So we clearly need to identify this corridor as a national priority.
Rick Dumas is the president of the Northwestern Ontario Municipalities Association and represents the 37 towns that sent a letter to the Prime Minister asking to have the highway designated as dual-use national infrastructure to try and tap into the federal government's $82 billion defense budget.
So when you talk about national defense and security of our country, there's a link that if anything happens with that link, literally, we're split in half.
Asking for that dual-use label to come and fill in what remains the biggest infrastructure gap in the Trans-Canada highway system is a very logical step.
Charles Sirtwell says the road is vital, and closures on it can force massive 500 to 600 kilometer detours through the United States. In a statement, the federal transport minister said these highways fall under provincial jurisdiction. For his part, Mayor Dumas hopes to make his case to the Prime Minister in person next week. Lisa Mayer, CBC News, Ottawa.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Snow in Thompson, fog in Brandon. And in Winnipeg, mostly cloudy after that depressing day yesterday, right? With all that snow coming down, things are going to start to melt soon. Well, this hour on the show,
many of us are just trying to provide safe, healthy places in a house that, for whatever reason, we don't currently need.
We're going to continue a conversation this morning about rent discounts. That is a Winnipeg landlord who we're going to speak with in detail. The Manitoba government is looking to expand renter protections. There's some concerns about discounts, though, not being on the list for review, and we'll find out why. This is continuing journalism from a story we first raised yesterday here on Information Radio. And an expert from Finland is in Winnipeg today to talk on a panel about affordable housing. So we are going to hear with them ahead of that. The federal minister of housing is in Winnipeg today as well. So there's lots of discussions that will be happening in the city about solutions to our challenges. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells to find out what's developing in news. Otherwise, good morning.
Good morning. Well, a month after a violent assault in a Steinbach school, a local indigenous cultural group there says the school's lack of response will only make bullying worse. 11-year-old Theo Osborne, a member of Pimicikamak Cree Nation, suffered a concussion and lost a tooth in that attack at Stony Brook Middle School. His mom says the bullying continued when Theo went back to class and he ended up having to transfer. So we'll get the latest on that as well. A woman who lost her brother to an overdose is disappointed the government is not planning to open new rapid access addiction medicine clinics. An inquest judge did recommend new RAM clinics be added. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's going on with the forecast. Abby Adiemi, what's up?
Yeah, mild in the southern part of the province. We're looking at a mix of
cloud and, some light precipitation today. It's going to look gray for the southern region, but up north, we're still dealing with cold conditions as you travel towards the Churchill region. For Winnipeg right now, -6, cloudy at both the Fox and the airport. Mild winds and a morning wind chill feeling close to -13. We're expecting a high of +1 today on the mainly cloudy condition. There's a risk of freezing drizzle somewhere in between and maybe a few flurries through the morning hours. While across the southern regions, we're looking at that mild but overcast start with temperatures sitting around -10 in the Brandon area with foggy conditions to a warmer 1 degree in the morning towards Port Perry area this morning. But you can expect breezy winds through the morning and expect those temperatures to climb towards 0 to +3 this afternoon through the Interlake. While up north, colder conditions, we're still seeing light snow there. Temperature sitting between -12 and -20 to -28 in the Churchill region with biting wind chills in the -40 region, a risk of frostbite in minutes. So it's more like a split across the region. Winnipeg right now, we're cloudy and it's -6.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Just before we turn to traffic, in an hour from now, we just confirmed we're going to have a discussion about fires in this city. Corey, who have you been talking to?
Yeah, I was just texting with Nick Casper. He's the head of the Firefighters Union here in Winnipeg, and they're concerned about the amount of deadly fires this year. There's been 6 alone, according to the firefighter. According to the fire commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Their office, most recent, of course, Monday night on Trent Avenue, there was a deadly fire. So they're kind of sounding alarm, if you will, on those deadly fires. He's going to join us to talk a little bit about the union's concerns about the amount of those fires so far.
Okay, so that's in about an hour from now. CBC had requested the data from the Office of Fire Commission, the fire commissioner. So as Corey said, that's a confirmed number now with 6 house-related deaths. So the union's going to be on in an hour. Right now at 7:14, how is the commute going?
Quiet so far, actually. Haven't seen or heard of any major issues out there. And as I mentioned earlier, I think today what I'm going to announce is the official start of pothole season. Now that we're going to have those, looks like we have temperatures kind of hovering around 0 and a bit of a melt coming our way. So if you do see something going on, if there's a new pothole that wasn't bugging you a couple days ago, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line too. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, Canada's Federal Minister of Housing will be in Winnipeg today for a housing announcement later this morning. We have no detail on exactly what that specifically will be, but our city continues to tackle the shortage. The question is, how can we end homelessness? It's a topic that keeps coming up in Winnipeg, and this morning we're looking to Finland for answers. Experts there say treat housing as a human right, and they have had success in reducing homelessness with that strategy. The Y Foundation is Finland's largest housing nonprofit, and Juha Kahila is the head of international affairs. He is also in Winnipeg today to meet with advocates for housing and homelessness, and he's going to be sitting on a special panel a little bit later today as people continue to discuss, as I said, solutions. But right now is with us. Hi there. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So tell me a little bit, you're going to be on this panel today. It includes specifically, yourself, but also specifically women, Indigenous people, and the queer community. So it's a very targeted panel, specific panel. What are you expecting to hear, and what do you hope to bring to the panel?
Well, of course, I hope to hear some things that will happen in reality, because I think one of the things I have been saying for many years now is that, we have all these great strategy papers and we have all these great plans, but what we are lacking is the action part, because at the end of the day, we cannot tackle the issue of lack of affordable housing or ending homelessness if we don't have action to back those words. So that's what I'm hoping to hear today. And what I will bring to the table is the story from Finland. So we have been building state-subsidized affordable housing for the past 75 years, and we have never stopped. And we see it as an valuable infrastructure to the country and to the cities, just like hospitals and roads and schools and so forth.
Did you also start in Finland with more strategy than action? Was that also a concern there? Or from the outset, did those things kind of go hand in hand?
Well, I think in Finland they went hand in hand, to be honest. And we start building state-subsidized affordable housing after Second World War, when we lost a lot of land to Russia and we needed to rehouse 400,000 people who were left on the wrong side of the border. So I think, home for all and housing is a human right. It's in the Finnish DNA, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. When you look at us here in Manitoba, and we have had an ongoing relationship here, we last spoke in 2022 regarding housing in Manitoba. In December of this year, last year, 2025, CBC here reported that we had the highest number of people on the wait list for Manitoba housing in the past 5 years. So the problem's only continuing to grow. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm not too surprised, unfortunately, because what I've learned being many times here in Canada, in Winnipeg and Ottawa and Toronto, the bureaucracy behind building state-subsidized affordable housing is quite horrible, to be honest. I've learned that it can take up to 6 years to get the building done once you start the planning process. So that's way too long period of time to just build one state-subsidized affordable building. So I think there's a lot of to be done in that perspective for sure.
Now there are some government housing, state subsidized housing that is on the table right now. For the first time in years, they're talking about that. But they're also looking at a lot of solutions in Winnipeg that involve looking at existing buildings and sort of retrofitting them. There's a number of different groups that are involved. How do you suggest things get streamlined so, as you say, action can match the strategy in a quicker way? Like what gets in the way of that?
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to do the work as well, to look the buildings you have already in the city perspective. And that's exactly what we did in Finland as well when we started with the housing first. So we actually started to renovate the existing shelters and temporary accommodation buildings into permanent single-site housing units for people. And that worked really well. So I think you need to look that perspective as well at the same time that you're gearing up to build more community housing and state-subsidized affordable housing because like I said, it seems it takes years here to get them done. So in the meanwhile, you need to have some other housing solutions for people as well, for sure. And I think renovating the existing buildings is a good way to start doing it.
It's interesting when you reacted to the state of bureaucracy and how long it can take to build things. How does that compare to Finland?
In Finland, from the planning point to get the building ready, it takes 18 months to 2 years. So it's a much faster process, to be honest. But of course, I understand the reality is that here you have three floors of governments, and in Finland we have two. So of course that makes things a bit easier for us. But I think with the good coordination and with shared goals, it's possible here as well.
How does what gets built in Finland, how do the politicians and the strategies and plans match the understanding of the vulnerable populations? How do you make sure that that tie is still there?
That tie has always been there. And I think in Finland, we are in a lucky situation in a way that there has been a political will to end homelessness and at the same time to build more state-subsidized affordable housing for low-income people, single parents, and also for the homeless people. So I think we have advantage in that sense that it has always been a political will to build affordable homes and then again also end homelessness.
What do you think that Manitoba, what's the biggest thing you think that we might learn from the way things have worked for you? I mean, the bigger change in attitude that's been there since, as you said, the end of the war is a tough thing to duplicate when we're talking so macro. But on the micro level, what do you think the biggest thing is that we can learn that will change our situation here?
Well, of course, and you cannot copy one model from another country to another. So I think it's more like this kind of inspiration, what you can learn. And I think especially what we touched already regarding how to use the existing building stock already. And also how to make sure that when we are talking about affordable housing, that also the homeless people should have access into that housing stock, because that doesn't happen all the time. So when we are talking about affordable housing, sometimes it means only affordable housing for the middle class people and so forth. So I think that's my main message today as well, that when you are building these homes, make sure that the homeless people will have access to them as well.
Why do politicians in your country see value in that? I should word that differently, because you've already told us that it's sort of a mindset. Were there any people or politicians that you had to convince to see value in that?
Of course, but at the end of the day, I think what we have done and how we have communicated this in Finland for the public and for the politicians as well is that when we take care of the most vulnerable people in our cities, when we build state-subsidized affordable housing so everyone can afford their housing, we are actually creating safer cities, more vibrant cities, better cities for each and every one of us. So it's this kind of sort of win-win-win situation. And I think that has played a big role.
Thank you very much for your time and welcome back to Winnipeg and good luck with your panel tonight.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here once again.
That is with us live, Juha Kahila, who's the head of international affairs of the Y Foundation. That's Finland's largest housing nonprofit. As I mentioned, he will speak on a panel tonight about housing and homelessness. It is happening at the West End Cultural Centre at 6 o'clock. Now, later this morning, also, the federal minister of housing is in Winnipeg for some announcements with some different groups also involved there, the mayor and others. And so we will hear what that is all about a little bit later this morning.
The PWHL is back for the third season of heart-stopping women's hockey. And this season, there are two new teams looking to make their mark on the ice. The Seattle Torrent and Vancouver Golden Eyes. When the world's best women's hockey players face off, anything can happen. Will the Minnesota Frost achieve a three-peat? Will a new team take home the trophy? There's only one way to find out. Watch the PWHL for free on CBC Gem.
Little ditty we decided to spring on you there. Good times are calling. That is Chris Ising from Winnipeg. It is 7:25 a.m. and let's get to whether or not it was good times for the Jets. It's time for morning sports and Paul McGowan joins us now. Hello there.
Hi, Marcy.
So let's go to the ice. The Jets got a single point last night against Nashville.
Yeah, and it is a point that they salvaged last night, trailing 3-2 late in the third period before Jonathan Taves ties it up late. But of course, with just 14 games remaining and with 4 points between the Jets now and that second wildcard spot, losing that second point does sting a little bit. Now, there was almost an interesting wrinkle in last night's game because referee Chris Lee did not get to the game in time. So it was played with just one ref, and it was brought to everyone's attention that in a scenario where both referees were unable to show, there's a provision in the NHL rules that in theory would allow each team to select a player to serve as referee. Here's Eric Comrie's take on that.
That's a strange rule. I would like to be the referee one game. I used to grow up and want to be a referee so badly. It was like my dream to be an NHL referee. So I'd volunteer to be the referee of the Lions, but I'd love to do it one day. I think I'd be the right choice because I know the rules pretty well. I don't want people yelling at me, though. I don't like when people yell at the referees. It makes me sad if they yell at me.
Eric Comrie working out his thoughts in real time there. Maybe a post-playing career for him. Jets are back at it tomorrow against Boston.
To another story, let's talk curling. Canada was finally dealt a loss in Calgary.
Yeah, the perfect run for Carrie Anderson is over after a win early in the day yesterday to go to 5-0. Canada faced Switzerland in the final draw of the day, and it's the Swiss who come out on top 6-5. Not an easy win, though, for Switzerland. Canada scored 2 in the 10th to force an extra end, and Anderson said that she was proud of the team's effort.
I thought we played pretty good, and we made some really big shots. And, I think if we can keep that going forward, and we should be okay. They're a great team, great young team, and, we've always had really good battles with them. And, I hope to play them again.
Canada and Switzerland sit atop the standings in the round robin, so meeting again would mean meeting in a final or semi-final, but still lots of curling left before we get there. Canada with 5 games left, 2 on the schedule today, Turkey early, and then Scotland a little bit later.
Let's finish, Paul, with soccer, but this is a story about child labor laws.
Bayern Munich is in a unique situation tonight. Their top 3 goaltenders, or goalkeepers, I should say, are injured, and the next man up is hurt as well. So the next best option right now is a 16-year-old academy player, Leonard Prescott. And 16 is young by NHL standards, maybe not quite so young by pro tennis standards. The issue, though, is that youth in Germany are not allowed to work past 8 p.m. The game tonight starts at 9 p.m. Here's Bayern head coach Vincent Kompany on everything involved in the decision today.
If he has to play tomorrow, he'll have our full backing and support. But of course, the decision will be a purely medical one. If everything looks good in the morning and things go as they are going now, then Urbig will start in goal as usual. And if not, then we'll find another solution. That's exactly what we'll do.
So, Marcy, youth athletes in Germany do get an exemption, which typically goes until 11 p.m., which is still not enough time to get the game in. So Bayern either have to seek a specific exemption for Prescott if they do need him to play, or, I don't know, maybe put him on the shoulders of another 16-year-old and put a trench coat on them and try to pass them off as a very tall adult. Drama either way tonight in Germany.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Paul McGowan with Morning Sports. Coming up, we have our newscast at 7:30 with Heather Wells, the very latest. Also, your regional forecast. So we'll look at how quickly all this snow that came to us yesterday is going to melt. If you have a problem in traffic, please give us a call on the commuter line and we'll pass it along. 788-3093. Things going well so far. Well, still ahead. Let's stay with sports for a second because the PWHL game is coming. Professional women's hockey game on Sunday. It's sold out in Winnipeg. Pretty exciting, but not if you didn't get tickets. However, someone's going to win. We have a pair of tickets to give away. We're going to hear some of your entries. We asked you to call the listener line and tell us, give us your best call. Very simple. She shoots, she scores. So we're going to hear some of the entries so far. Also coming up this half hour on the program, our medical column is all about cholesterol. Stay tuned. Right now, your news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is -6, nice and calm out there. And after yesterday's snow, we get to start the slow melt today, a high of 1. 11-year-old Theo Osborne is dancing again about a month after he was assaulted at a Steinbach middle school. Theo, a member of Pimicikamak Cree Nation, suffered a concussion, lost a tooth, and had some hair pulled out in the attack at Stony Brook Middle School. His mom, Melissa Johnson, says she wasn't happy with the school's response. She says the bullying continued after Theo went back to class.
He used to dance every day for like 2 hours a day. He'd make me go watch him in the living room and he'd practice, but then after that happened, he wasn't dancing anymore.
Theo and his family decided to transfer him to Steinbach's Clear Spring Middle School. A local indigenous cultural group wants that Steinbach school, the school where he was assaulted, Stony Brook Middle School, to follow through with its anti-bullying policy. Minnow Oduan says the school's lack of response will only make the bullying worse. A woman who lost her brother to an overdose is disappointed the government is not planning to open new rapid access to addiction medicine clinics. Lee Earnshaw died in 2021. An inquest judge recommended new RAM clinics be added. Shared Health says it's not planning to open new sites. Earnshaw's sister, Carol Packer, says that is unacceptable.
They failed Lee once again. They're failing at providing access to treatment.
Shared Health says it is focused on enhancing a virtual appointment system for the clinics. Manitoba's addictions minister says the government has also added more than 1,500 addiction treatment spaces. The Group for Manitoba School Boards is calling on the province to better fund divisions in light of concerns over increasing school taxes. Recently, some divisions have proposed raising taxes because they say the provincial funding isn't keeping pace with rising costs. Manitoba School Boards Association President Alan Campbell says it's a difficult balancing act.
If the provincial government isn't able to fund us to the extent that we need to meet those expectations, we need to go to the education property taxpayer, and we need to try to strike that balance between a reasonable increase in education property tax and then also keeping in mind the expectation that we continue to hear from constituents that they expect their public schools to be well-staffed and well-resourced.
Manitoba's finance minister says the NDP is funding education adequately. A woman has told a Winnipeg court she once had suspicions about her husband's involvement in the 2019 beating death of one of his co-workers. That co-worker's son is charged with second-degree murder in her death. CBC's Austin Shebek-Haggett was in court.
The woman testified she was beyond blindsided to learn her husband was interviewed by police about his coworker's killing. She was also stunned to learn the coworker had filed a sexual harassment complaint against him the year before. CBC News is not naming the woman killed to protect the identity of her son, who's charged with second-degree murder in connection to her death and was 16 at the time. His lawyer, James Lockyer, is arguing that the woman's co-worker is an alternative suspect in her killing because she'd expressed fears about him after making the complaint. On Tuesday, the 54-year-old man's estranged wife testified that they're separated but still living together. She said the turning point of their marriage was when he told her, "I can't wait to make you disappear," during an argument. She also testified that her husband said he was glad that his coworker was dead. She said he called her twice before the hearing to tell her that Lockyer is not someone to be trusted and that the lawyer is kind of nasty. The trial is expected to continue until April. Austin Shebek-Haggett, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A musical about musicals.
Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me?
The Steinbach Arts Council is celebrating that city's vibrant musical history this week with a special production, Generations of Performers Uniting to Perform Broadway Moments. Mercedes Thiessen's been performing since she was in 6th grade. She says Steinbach's Mennonite culture plays a role for many in the musical movement.
A lot of people grew up singing in church or acting in their church production, and so lots of these people have some reference in their mind of what is it like to do drama or sing.
You can hear more on this story coming up right after this newscast right here on Information Radio. Well, the Winnipeg Jets force a shootout.
Loose in front, Velarde scores!
Gabriel Velarde in the first period on TSN. Josh Morrissey also scoring along with Jonathan Taves late in the third, forcing overtime. But Buffalo takes it in a shootout, 4-3 the final. Winnipeg still gains a point. Head coach Scott Arniel says while the Jets lost 3 of their 8 home games, his team still did a lot of good things.
It just continues to give us hope, and that, it gives us, something to continue to build off. Now we get, like I mentioned, tough road trip and some tough buildings.
And the Jets skate into that first tough building tomorrow night in Boston. You can find more news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get into what's going on in our regional forecast. Abby, what do you know?
In summary, Marcia, it's just a split of weather story. Mild conditions in the southern regions. We'll see highs between 0s and 3 degrees, like 0 and +3. While up north, we're still seeing those dangerous wind chills of -40s close to Churchill. Winnipeg right now, we will warm up to +1 later. Currently, at -6.
Okay, pretty straight ahead. Because of that, though, hovering around 0, I understand it's a little bit sort of greasy out there, so just pay attention to that. We also know now that lights are out at Chief Peguis Gateway out in North Kildonan, so be careful out there. We do understand the crews are on scene right now of what's happening there, so that's Chief Peguis Gateway. Avoid that if you can, and give us a call if you have any update on that or other situations, and that is at 788-3093. Time right now is 7:37, and Heather mentioned that we would have more on that story that she had in the news about Steinbach celebrating in song, and we do. David Clausen is in studio, executive of the director of Steinbach Arts Council, who is directing this show. They're doing Broadway Moments, as you heard, featuring all these generations of local singers. And I welcome you to our studio in Winnipeg. Nice to see you.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So when you were putting this together, did you have a moment where, when you were where you had to look for people, find people, or were they sort of readily available and ready to take the stage again?
We never have to look for people. Whenever we announce in our region that we are planning some sort of production, they come from every corner of the region. We often will have for a full production up to 100 people auditioning, and based on our theater size alone, we have to. We take 1 and 2 at maximum. So we have big casts, we fill that theater, but we have 100 or more audition for these shows every single time.
Now, we've heard a little bit of this on the news this morning, but help us understand sort of where that comes from, that really rich tradition of being on stage in Steinbach.
Yeah, I think we all grow up appreciating music in our lives, especially in our region, whether it's in church or school. I personally have vivid memories in high school of being encouraged and nurtured in music. It was a thing that we all did in high school. It didn't matter what walk you were from. You were an arts kid, you were a sports kid, you were academic or not. You all came together and you did these projects. We were doing Gilbert and Sullivan musicals in high school. So we worked really hard and we did great things together. And I think that just became something that was normalized for so many of us. We invest in this sort of thing. We build community through these productions, and it's an amazing feeling once you get to the end. It's a gold medal.
Well, what does real investment in these sorts of things mean when you look at, the community investment is one thing. There's the educational investment, though, as well in the arts. Is it investment in continuing with the drama education, but as well as the musical education? When you look at your community, what really sort of helps people excel?
Yeah, I'm a real believer. I was encouraged all the way through my education to invest in arts training. That is what I pursued. It's what I learned. So many of us bring that back and reinvest in our community that way. I think these are critical skills. We talk a lot at the Steinbach Arts Council about a sense of belonging. Arts and culture brings people together. It builds understanding, it builds empathy, all of these critical skills that we need as humans to become whole. And success for us is bringing people together and really reinforcing community at the one-on-one level and within those casts. You build a family, and I think that just strengthens everything that we do in our region and in our community. We are a thriving community, and it's because we build relationships and we actually invest in one another.
Speaking of which, then, I know that we have in the news, Chris Winkler is the person we have clipped who's on stage in Broadway Moments, says he hasn't been on stage in decades. What's it been like watching people come back to the stage? Are there some nerves, or are people like, oh, it's my moment again?
Oh, I think if you create the environment that's encouraging for people and not intimidating, of course you're going to you build them up. This is what I do by nature, is I work to build people up and to make sure that they're feeling successful. Yes, you get a few nerves. We have a lot of first timers, I think, people that I've never met in this particular show. So it's exciting to see them thrive and become more confident on stage. It's exciting to watch that process for each and every cast member.
What's the range of, you don't have to know exactly, but the range of ages then for people that came back to be part of this or came back to try to audition? So
last year in our production of Fiddler on the Roof, we had 5 years old to well into their senior years. We had 3 generations in the last show. This show has several family units that are coming together. So you see a mom, a dad, and a kid, and yeah, we take kids as young as 5, as long as they can handle the rehearsal process. Then they're good. The schedule.
How many shows do you go through? This is Broadway Moments. So how many musicals do you touch?
Right. We thought this would be easy, and it's not, because
What have you done?
What have we done? What have we done? We are doing 6 highlights from 6 shows. So some of them are shows that we have done in the past, and some are shows that we aspire to do. Fiddler on the Roof was one that a lot of people didn't get to see because it sold out so quickly. So we're bringing highlights back there. But 6 shows on this particular review of history, and it's exciting. 29 songs.
Do you want to shout out some of the people that also are so critical to making this go? Like I having lived in Steinbach, and I actually was in community theater when I was living there,
right.
So I loved it.
Yeah.
But I also know that lots of volunteers, there's people even that are, helping with costumes and helping with staging and maybe backstage. And I mean, it's a really big effort.
This is a huge team project. You cannot do this by yourself. So Christy Penner is co-directing with me. She's taking some of the scenes, and we worked on Fiddler on the Roof together last year. Danielle Kerpluck has been helping. She didn't know she was going to do costumes, and then you do a little hey, would you please, and suddenly somebody's taking complete charge. Annalise Schellenberg is playing
small cities, right?
Small cities, happens, right? And this is what community is. You see a need, and you invest in that way. Annalise Schellenberg is at the piano for the entire show, and there are so many people, too many to list, but you really do bank on everybody bringing their skills and their talents to the table and investing.
Still have tickets available?
Still have tickets available, yes.
Excellent. Where do people get them?
Come to steinbacharts.ca or give us a call, 346-1077. It's really easy to grab a ticket.
Do you want to sing something before you go?
I do not, Marcy. I tried. You tried. That's fine. I'm gonna save everybody from that today.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That's all we got for you. Thank you for coming in sincerely. What a fun show of Broadway Moments. Ambitious. Selections from 6 different shows, and good luck with the rest of the run.
Thanks for having me.
That is live in studio David Clausen, who's the Executive Director of the Steinbach Arts Council. So if you want to check out Broadway Moments, it's running at SRSS, that's Steinbach Regional Secondary School and their theater. Great place to watch a show, I can attest. And you're going to steinbacharts.ca if you want to get more information about what's happening and more tickets.
A window cleaner that cleans well beyond windows. Bubble wrap as wallpaper. And what's with the lizard and the weight loss drugs?
Ho, ho, it's magic.
It's a floor wax and dessert topping, unintended product uses on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on demand on CBC Listen.
It is 7:44 a.m. It's -6 in Winnipeg, freezing fog in Brandon, -10, light snow in Thompson, and -15. Well, still ahead in this half hour, we are going to have our medical column. Dr. Raj Bhardwaj talking about cholesterol today. But right now, we have something very special for you. So we have opened a contest. We started it yesterday. We've asked you to call us on the listener line with your call of a goal. So we asked you to do the old she shoots, she scores. And this is for your chance to score tickets to Sunday's PWHL game in Winnipeg. Really exciting. 2 of the professional women's teams going to be on the ice here. Of course, we're not part of that league, so this is sort of a neutral zone game so we can be part of the action. It is, as I mentioned, sold out, but you're going to win a pair of tickets if we pick your call. So here are some of the entries we got so far.
And it's Paquette crossing the blue line with the puck. Passes to Botterill. Botterill with the puck. She shoots. She scores! Jennifer Botterill puts Team Canada ahead of the U.S. in the late moments of their third period with a goal and an assist from 2 Manitoban players.
St. Anne's Lone LaRock gets the pass to Leslie, and Leslie rounds the corner, and she shoots, and she scores! 1 for the Chargers.
The forwards come rushing in, skating hard, they see the goal, they shoot, she saves! I am a goalie, Dad. Have a great day.
All right, I love that goalie called. I kind of wondered what was going to happen with that. All of you are entered in to win the tickets to the PWHL game in Winnipeg on Sunday. We're still taking entries until tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Friday, we announce the winner. Here's how you enter. She shoots, she scores. Make your call. Or maybe she saves. 204-788-3205. Or you can also email us a short video. She shoots, she scores at win@cbc.ca. Well, next it's time for our medical column, and the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association released their new guidelines on cholesterol management last week, and it has doctors excited, and that is partly because cardiovascular disease is the number one cause of death in this country. Doctors say the new guidelines will help prevent heart attacks and go further to prevent strokes and premature death. Dr. Raj Bhardwaj told us all about it. Hi.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what in the new guidelines has doctors talking?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that by measuring cholesterol levels earlier in life and treating high levels more aggressively, we could cut heart disease rates in half. That's huge, right? So right now, the Canadian guidelines say that everyone over the age of 40 should get their cholesterol checked. These new guidelines out of the U.S. say, no, we should be starting earlier at 30. The problem of cholesterol is a lifelong problem, and it's much easier to prevent a problem than to try to fix it once it's started. And they're basically saying, look, we're starting the conversation too late in life. And in the meantime, people are getting too far down the hole of silent cardiovascular disease progression. Another few differences, guidelines recommend adding a few newer tests that can help doctors predict your personal risk even better. So really being able to sort of tweak the guidelines to the person. There are fancy tests called ApoB and lipoprotein a. If those are high, then your risk of having cholesterol stuck to the walls of your blood vessels is even higher, which means we should be more aggressive in lowering your cholesterol and aiming for lower numbers overall.
Why are doctors so focused on cholesterol in the first place?
We harp about it a lot, don't we? We talk about it a lot.
You like it, yeah.
we like it, but we like it for a specific reason, okay? So if there's a lot of cholesterol in your blood, it can settle on the inside lining of your blood vessels. That causes plaque. It narrows the arteries. That's not good because it decreases the blood flow through those arteries. Sometimes the plaque inside the artery cracks, and your body treats that like a little cut inside the blood vessel, and it forms a blood clot inside the blood vessel, which can totally block the blood flow. And if that happens in a blood vessel that's going to your heart, you have a heart attack. And if it happens in a blood vessel going to your brain, that's a stroke. So really, what we want to know is how much cholesterol is gunking up the inside of your blood vessels. But that's actually kind of hard to measure because it starts as a microscopic layer and it's hard to see until it's been around for years or decades, and it literally hardens, it calcifies over years. But by then, it's there, and it's really hard to get rid of. So instead, what we do is we measure the amount of cholesterol that's floating around in your blood, because we know there's a relationship. The more cholesterol floating around, the more likely it is to get stuck to the inside of the pipe, causing that plaque. And there's a few things that we can do over decades to prevent, or at least slow down, the process of that plaque sticking to your blood vessels, and lowering high cholesterol levels is one of them. And that's why we care about it, because if we can find high cholesterol levels and lower them in people who are at high risk for developing those clogged arteries, then we can prevent heart attacks, prevent strokes. And it's a prevention thing. I mean, the sooner you start prevention, the bigger impact over time.
So are there some people who should take special note of these updates you're talking about?
For sure. So if you have any other risk for heart disease or stroke, right? So diabetes, high blood pressure, history of smoking, family history of heart disease or stroke, then we know that cholesterol is going to be even more relevant in you. There are also certain populations who have a higher risk. So if you ended up with high blood pressure or diabetes during pregnancy, even if those things went back to normal after pregnancy, you should get cholesterol testing sooner rather than later. You are at greater risk. Also, just randomly, genetically, about 1 in 250 Canadians have a genetic change in how their body uses and recycles cholesterol. And because of that, they'll end up having high cholesterol numbers, even as kids. So that's why the Canadian Pediatric Society said last week, even kids should have their cholesterol tested just once while they're kids.
So really interesting information from Dr. Raj Bhardwaj on our medical column today about cholesterol. We hear from Dr. Raj every Wednesday morning here on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM. And next on the show, let's continue our conversation about rent discounts. If you were with us yesterday, you heard Brent Kranick. He lives in a rent-controlled 2-bedroom apartment in North Kildonan. 6 years ago, he found it, realized it was a discounted price when he was doing his paperwork. He said there weren't any issues with that until last year. About 90 days before his lease was up, his rent went up 8.7%, about $100 a month. Now, under provincial regulation, his property manager was only allowed to raise rent by 1.7%. But with 30 days to renew the lease, he decided to absorb the cost and pay the full deal. So his lease is up again in the spring, and there's more changes to the discount that are possible.
My lease renewal period, I'm going to get my letter in May or June this year, and I'm a little bit on edge to say, what's going to happen.
That is, in fact, Avram Shirak else that has weighed in on the story. Right now, though, Brent Kranick is... do we have that clip, Abby? No? Okay. We don't have that clip, but that's okay. I can tell you exactly what he said because he was on our program yesterday. So yesterday, what Brent was saying about what's happening with his rent is this. He said that for his lease renewal, he's going to get his letter in, quote, in May or June. He's a little bit on edge of what's going to happen, saying 1.8% as per the mandate. Will that be what it is? Or are they going to drop from the discount to make it 10 to 15%? I really don't know, he said, end quote. So we wanted a landlord to weigh in, and Shirley DeLorme Russell is with us. She rents a house in Winnipeg. She offers her tenants a rent discount. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So you've been doing the rent discount thing for many years, right?
Since 2015.
Yeah. So how does it work with your tenants? Because you called yesterday and told us in the listener line a bit, but in case people miss it.
So I charge, my house is not for profit, right? I try just to make it work for itself. I'm not trying to make $1 gajillion off of it, which is not for me. So I set the rate of the rent ridiculously affordable so people could actually afford it. It's a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, right? And families were going to move in there. So I set it affordable, and it covers exactly insurance, mortgage, and property tax, and maybe makes $3 profit. Next year, I'm allowed to raise the rent 0%. So I raise it 0%, and that becomes part of the discount. The next year, I'm allowed to raise it 1.4%. So I do raise it 1.4%, but now that becomes the discount. So the discount grows. The rent stays at what it is, but the discount grows. My discount is set. You have to pay rent on time.
Yeah.
You can't smoke or vape in the house.
Okay.
You can't be a crazy rowdy house where you disturb your neighbors immensely and the police have to be called. And you can't grow marijuana in the house because that then classifies your house as a grow up.
Okay.
So as long as those conditions are met, then
you'll continue doing the discount.
Yep. Yeah. And the discount has grown to like $200, right?
Now, tell me a little bit about your rules, because you have the rules in place, obviously, to protect your investment.
Yeah.
Is it if you break the rule, that's it? It goes right back up to the other amount. You have an example of where that has happened.
Some of the rules were broken, and this is the way I work as a landlord. I worked really hard with my tenant to make it right, to fix it, to make it so it wasn't an issue anymore, to make it so that they can continue to live there. I've only ever had one tenant.
Got it.
So I wanted this family to stay living there. And we did work on it for about 6 months.
But in the end, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Okay.
So I said to them, I'm not going to be able to afford to give you, my thing is always a safe, healthy, affordable home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to be able to provide you with a safe, healthy, affordable home without raising the rent.
Got it.
So the discount will need to be taken off.
Could they absorb the rent still, or do they have to move out? They could.
They could.
How hard was it for you to do that? Because obviously you're speaking about you're holding your heart. And you're like, so you have feelings as a landlord. This is for you. This is about providing the house.
Yeah. And I grew up the very same way the family who is living in my house grew up. Everybody deserves to have safe, healthy, affordable housing.
So I want to get to the news aspect of this for our last 2 minutes here. So one of them is, how do you, some are saying, I would maybe a landlord might even want to do this, but they can't because they can't afford it, because gas and electricity rates are going up and all those other pressures. What are those pressures on you that are might make this hard to do in the future even?
So For me, I need to be able to pay the basics. I need to be able to pay them. If property tax jumps, I need to be able to pay that, right? So I need to be able to pay the property tax, the mortgage, the insurance. I also need to be able to do the repairs and to replace appliances. That's what and I know I own the house and it's a business and it should cost me money, but I'm not rich and I'm hoping to run this as a nonprofit where it supports itself. So those are kind of the pressures I have to deal with.
What changes would you like to see when it comes to regulations for renters in Manitoba? Because they're looking at that right now. Some are saying discounts actually should go away. So should discounts go away or not? And what other changes might they look at, do you think?
So if discounts went away, I would charge the full rent every single year. So the rent would have naturally gone up in the last 10 years to what it is. If that tenant never lost that discount, they'd be in one of those killer houses that are still so cheap.
Do you think that they could put a requirement in that landlords could do the discount, but maybe only make the jump then, reasonable? Because part of the challenge here is, they have room to put the rent up immediately 10 to 20% if they choose to do that.
Right. So maybe I am all for rules to protect tenants and rules to make sure landlords are doing this well. So I always give my tenants 3 months notice. Maybe you're supposed to say if the rent increases more than this X percent, you have to make it go over this many months or this time period instead of doing it immediately.
Okay.
You also have to advertise the house at the real price. So if the house costs $1,550 a month, that's the real price. The discounted price is $1,275.
Got it.
Yeah.
So some of the rules around transparency around discounts you think should be changed, or at least regulated and enforced so people are clear.
Yeah, and there are lots of things at the rental tenancy branch that paperwork for landlords to give their tenants, and I particularly follow the rules specifically because I want my tenant to feel that they have a safe place and I'm not taking advantage of them. So again, make more things that we can easily follow and maybe raise the limit because I know somebody who rents a house that is over and above the limit of when you have to worry about rent control. And it's not that high. It's $1,600. Like $1,600.
So you think that scale
raise
should
that
change?
because today in 2025, a $1,600 house is nothing. My university age kids say, $1,600? We could do that, Mom.
Got it. Shirley, thank you very much for coming in. Shirley DeLorme-Russell is a landlord here in Winnipeg. Heather, what's making news?
Well, an 11-year-old boy is dancing again after being assaulted at a Steinbach middle school a month ago. Theo Osborne is a member of Pimicikamak Cree Nation. He suffered a concussion, lost a tooth, and had hair pulled in the attack at Stony Brook Middle School. His mom wasn't happy with the school's response. She says the bullying continued when he went back to class. He has since been transferred to a different school. The group representing Manitoba school boards is calling on the province to better fund divisions in light of concerns over increasing school taxes. We'll hear about that in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Still ahead, a high-energy school video mocking Bad Bunny's Super Bowl, recreating Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance is striking a chord. We'll tell you all about it. Also, to a serious story, we're going to look at the challenges with fatal house fires.
On cue.
In banking, I was paid properly, while in motherhood, not so much.
Sindhu V didn't start out in comedy. She was an investment banker and a stay-at-home mom, but now she's one of the most sought-after comics working today. She'll be here to talk about her new show, which she wrote out of a time of grief. How to be funny, even when you're feeling so sad.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
An increasing number of young adults are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer. The experts are still trying to understand why, but the Canadian Cancer Society recommends that the screening age for this cancer be lowered. How an early diagnosis can save lives, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. A funeral procession for Ali Larijani makes its way through the streets of Tehran. The Iranian security chief was killed in an Israeli airstrike yesterday. And Israel says it has killed another leader in an overnight attack, Iran's intelligence minister. Tehran has not confirmed this, but military leaders are retaliating with strikes on Israel and Gulf countries. From Doha, the CBC's Katie Simpson has the latest.
Early morning, Tel Aviv, sirens blare as missiles with cluster munitions are seen streaking across the sky. The debris striking an apartment, killing 2 people. Iranian state television saying the attacks are retaliation for the killing of its security chief, Ali Larijani. But in an interview with Al Jazeera, Iran's foreign minister warned that Larijani's death will not disrupt the regime. The system will continue. Iran also launched more strikes overnight on its neighbors. Explosions were reported near the American embassy in Baghdad, while defense systems in Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia intercepted a range of Iranian attacks. The U.S. military says it launched new strikes targeting Iranian positions along the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's blockade of the crucial shipping route has disrupted global energy markets, causing gas prices around the world to soar. U.S. Central Command says it took aim at Iranian anti-ship missile sites using multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions, all while Israel says it has continued with its campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Search and rescue crews cleared the site of a strike in Beirut, a building in a residential neighborhood that was nearly demolished. Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health says at least 20 people were killed in a series of attacks over the past 24 hours. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Doha.
U.S. President Donald Trump's Director of National Intelligence is about to get grilled by the Senate Intelligence Committee. Tulsi Gabbard will be answering questions about the justification for launching war on Iran. Let's bring in Willie Lowry from our Washington bureau. Willie, put this in context for us. What is Gabbard's testimony all about?
So this is a yearly intelligence hearing, but with the war in Iran raging on and questions swirling over why U.S. President Donald Trump decided to attack Iran, senators are expected to grill Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, and other agency heads over just what kind of threat the U.S. really faced in the lead up to the first strikes. Trump has given conflicting explanations of why he started this conflict, including suggesting that Iran would have attacked the U.S. within weeks and that the threat of a nuclear Iran was simply intolerable.
Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III.
But despite his assertions, the administration still hasn't provided evidence of just what exactly Iran was conspiring to do. That's something lawmakers will likely press Gabbard and others on.
Willie, how might yesterday's resignation of Joe Kent as director of the Counterterrorism Center play into those hearings?
In his resignation letter, Kent said that Iran posed no imminent threat to the U.S. Gabbard rejected that assertion on social media, saying ultimately it's up to Trump to decide what is and is not an imminent threat. But lawmakers will likely use Kent's resignation as fodder to pressure Gabbard on the subject.
That's Willie Lowry in our Washington bureau. Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
Australia is grappling with shortages of fuel created by the Iran war. The Prime Minister is calling a special cabinet meeting, but Anthony Albanese is assuring his country the situation is not yet a crisis.
We know that we do have fuel security. All of our ships have arrived at this point in time, but we've had a surge in demand, which is leading to some shortages in some areas.
Last week, Australia announced it will release gas and diesel from its domestic reserves to ease shortages in rural areas. After a 29-hour nationwide blackout, Cuba's power grid is back online. More than 10 million people were plunged into darkness as the United States choked off the island's fuel supply. Here is U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Cuba has an economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system that can't fix it. So they have to change dramatically. So they've got some big decisions to make.
On social media, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel is pushing back against those comments. He says the U.S. plans to take over Cuba, its resources, and its properties. Later this hour, the Bank of Canada will make an announcement on interest rates. Amid economic uncertainty and the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, many economists are expecting the central bank to hold its key lending rate. It's been at 2.25% since October. Quebec's finance minister, Éric Girard, is about to present his last budget before a new premier takes over from François Legault in 3 weeks, and Quebecers vote in a provincial election this fall. As Cathy Sini reports, in a time of global turmoil, Girard is promising a sober and responsible budget.
L'ampleur du phénomène est inacceptable.
Hélène Côté is the head of the main food bank in the Quebec City region. The number of people who need help has gone up dramatically in the last few years. She hopes she'll receive funds when Finance Minister Éric Girard tables Quebec's budget Wednesday.
Et on n'y arrive plus.
But Girard warns Quebecers that they shouldn't expect cash to help fill up their gas tanks.
No specific release for gas prices.
He believes it's too soon to act on fuel costs, even if prices at the pump have gone way up in some places due to the war in the Middle East.
These are geopolitical and military considerations, and until we know whether this situation is temporary or permanent, we cannot make the decision as to how to react.
Girard remains prudent with future economic growth, as the trade war with Donald Trump's tariffs have been affecting the aluminum and the forestry sectors.
The current situation is extremely unstable.
He says he won't present an election budget, even though Quebecers will head to the polls in the fall.
What we've done is we've reserved some amount for some announcement by the new leaders.
But he is hinting that whoever takes over from Premier François Legault in a few weeks' time won't have their hands too tied. Cathy Sini, CBC News, Quebec City.
The federal government is going to the Supreme Court of Canada to try to justify its use of the Emergencies Act. In 2022, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau invoked the act to clear convoy protests in Ottawa and at border crossings. A lower court ruled the decision was unlawful and infringed on protesters' charter rights. A spokesperson for the Justice Minister says he's bringing the case before Canada's top court to ensure the government has the tools it needs to protect public order and national security. The Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians is voicing concerns about Ontario's plan to change its transparency law. If the revisions pass, Premier Doug Ford, cabinet ministers, and parliamentary aides will be exempt from Freedom of Information requests. As Michelle Song reports, the association warns that could erode trust between the government and Indigenous communities.
The government needs to be transparent.
Deputy Grand Chief of the Association of Iroquois and Allied Indians, Stacia Loft, says freedom of information requests are important for Indigenous communities to understand how the government comes to a decision, especially those that affect their communities, such as infrastructure projects like the Ring of Fire and building high-speed rail.
That is part of good governance. And if First Nations don't see that good governance is happening, well, that is, that just exacerbates that issue of trust.
Criticism has been growing since the announcement last week to potentially change Ontario's access to information law. But Premier Doug Ford says he's following the federal standard.
95% will be FOIable, but cabinet confidentiality, personal conversations. That's not for a public to review.
He already has exemptions.
Lawyer Jessica Orkin specializes in Aboriginal law and files FOI requests as well. She says under current rules, records that are deemed personal are not disclosed. There are also exceptions for cabinet confidences.
I think we know that what is now not going to be disclosed are the things that politicians and ministers in particular most want to hide.
The association is calling on the government to rethink any legislative changes and says if there is any impacts to Indigenous rights, it could be challenged. Michelle Song, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your Wednesday. It is March 18th. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. You're on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Things should melt a little today and over the next couple of days as well. First, though, we're starting with cloud cover and some freezing fog actually over in Brandon. Well, this half hour on the program, we're going to talk about fire deaths. CBC News has learned from the Office of the Fire Commissioner that 6 people have died in fires in Winnipeg when you compare this fiscal year so far. And there are some concerns around that number and the circumstances facing firefighters. Now, that is coming from Nick Casper, who's the president of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg. He will join us this half hour to outline exactly what he says is problematic. So stay tuned for that. Also this half hour on the program, a really fun story with CBC's Jim Agapito, who was out with some of the teachers at Windsor Park Collegiate and their students. They've got a viral video on their hands. They recreated Bad Bunny's halftime Super Bowl performance. The students and staff did there. So we're going to hear more about exactly what led to this and all the fun. Right now, let's head to Heather Wells. She's live in our news center with other headlines.
Good morning. Well, a woman who lost her brother to an overdose is disappointed the government isn't planning to open new rapid access to addiction medicine clinics, or RAM clinics. Lee Earnshaw died in 2021. An inquest judge recommended new RAM clinics be added. Shared Health says it's not planning to open new sites. Earnshaw's sister says that is not acceptable. The organization representing Manitoba school boards is defending school divisions for raising taxes. Several school divisions have proposed hefty increases to their mill rates for next year. Manitoba School Boards Association's president, Alan Campbell, says divisions feel the NDP government still isn't keeping pace with rising costs. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby, how's the weather?
Yeah, risk of freezing drizzle. That's the story for the southern part of the province this morning. We're already tracking it in the Brandon area, the Dauphin area, and even the Interlake region this morning. So be careful. You might not notice the invisible layers of ice on roads and sidewalks this morning. And up north, we're still seeing wind chills and the values of minus 41. Winnipeg currently around minus 5, cloudy skies. We're expecting this cloudy day to stay with us with a slim chance of flurries and some freezing drizzle will be coming through the city this morning. We will reach a high of +3 today.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey.
A couple things to keep an eye out for. Kenniston and Scurfield, there's a multi-vehicle collision blocking eastbound Scurfield, just east of the intersection, so keep right to get around that. As well, northbound Osborne, got a call from Tim that there's an illegally parked car right at Beresford there. That's right outside the flag shop. He says it's causing quote-unquote mayhem out there, so pretty backed up. May still be an issue as well. Gateway and Chief Peguis, we heard earlier that the lights are flashing red. There's a light standard knocked down, but there are crews on scene, so that may be fixed by now. But if it's not and it's slow going around Gateway and Chief Peguis, that is why. If you do see anything else going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, I just want to mention a few names of listeners. In the last half hour, we played some fabulous calls. She shoots, she scores. You're trying to win tickets, all of you, to the PWHL game that is sold out here on Sunday in Winnipeg. And we asked you to call the listener line, 788-3205. Was She Shoots, She Scores, your call. As well, you can do a video if the call doesn't work. You want to send us a video of your call of She Shoots, She Scores and play hockey announcer. Then you can also send the video to radio893@cbc.ca. We will take entries until tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And those who already entered with some great calls. Scott Erickson, Louise Waldman, and Stuart Thomas. So thank you all for calling in the last half hour. We played your entries and you are have a chance to win now. Tickets to the game. Well, next, let's turn our attention to more serious matters. As I mentioned, the union representing firefighters in Winnipeg is sounding the alarm on fatal fires. So the Office of the Fire Commissioner confirmed with CBC 6 people have died in fires in Winnipeg this fiscal year so far. The most recent, a person found in a home in East Kildonan this week after a fire on Trent Avenue. This was on Monday night. Now, Nick Casper is president of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg and with us now. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Can you put the number in perspective for us? 6 people during the 2025 fiscal year so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a shocking number. And when news broke yesterday, our firefighters were devastated to learn, and our thoughts, of course, go out to the family and the victim and community there that's affected. But to put this in perspective, the average fire fatality rate across Canada is about 0.5 or 0.6 for every 100,000 people, and we're currently sitting at about 5 times that rate here in Winnipeg, which it isn't anything new. For years, we've been reporting some of the highest losses of life and property in the country, but typically we see ourselves around double the rate, and as I said, we're sitting at about 5 times that right now, which it's evolving into a public health crisis here, frankly.
The fiscal year, when was that measured from, the 6 people?
Well, you know what, I can't speak for the Office of the Fire Commissioner's fiscal year, but I can tell you that those 3 fatalities have occurred or 6 fatalities have occurred in less than 3 months.
What do you fear that might put us on pace for?
Well, if we pull that out across a 12-month period, that puts us at 24 deaths a year, or 2.8 per 100,000 people.
How preventable, in your view, is this, or what factors might go into preventing what we're seeing in Winnipeg then?
Oh, I think it's very preventable. I mean, residential fire deaths are not unpredictable. They follow well-established patterns tied to housing conditions, fire safety infrastructure, prevention programs, and emergency response capacity. And we've known through decades of research across the country that fatal fires disproportionately impact vulnerable populations, that's seniors living alone, families in aging or overcrowded homes, children, and especially communities facing economic hardship. And that's what our members see every day. These are the neighborhoods where the risk factors intersect, and these are where we're seeing these outcomes. And as far back as 2020, WFPS's own strategic direction identified critical staffing shortages in our fire prevention, public education, plan examination, and fire investigation branches, and called for investments in resources in those areas by year 2022. And here we are 6 years later. Call volumes have increased, hundreds of percent, and not a single one of those recommendations has been filled. So we are not putting our efforts into preventing incidents before they occur. And the alarming statistics that we're seeing here in Winnipeg are a consequence of that.
I will ask you more about resources and how we compare to other cities in just a moment, but I'm curious about what you said about what firefighters are telling you about some of the circumstances around what they're seeing in Winnipeg. You talked about, I think you said seniors living alone and such. Can you elaborate a little bit on what we understand about where you would see things being potentially preventable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's any mystery or any secret where the highest volume of our structure fires and the highest volume of our fatal outcomes are occurring. These are in neighborhoods with older housing stock, typically lower socioeconomic level, people who are facing social challenges. There have been a lot of incidents of seniors living alone in crowded housing. And I mean, we have great resources in our fire prevention branch and in our public education branch that are intended to go out to communities like this, people who have disproportionate risks, and provide them with education and prevention measures, whether that's inspecting the home, installing a smoke alarm, teaching them some fire safety tips about safe cooking, safe electrical use, whatever be the case. While it's impossible to measure the number of fires prevented that don't occur, it's very easy to measure our performance compared to the rest of the country, and we're falling far behind where we should be.
How much do you, just because you mentioned this, a lack of functioning smoke detectors have to do with the recent deaths?
You know what, I can't speak to any details of the most recent incident. Okay. I believe it's still under investigation. You'd have to go to the department for that one. But, generally speaking, in terms of variables that reduce fatalities in residential fires, those are some of the issues that we're talking about.
So how do we compare Winnipeg to other cities of our size when it comes to resources? And as you mentioned, you asked for additional resources in 2020, or 2022 rather, 2026, here we are 4 years later and they haven't come.
Yeah, so municipalities across Canada compare one another's performance indicators in every branch, fire and rescue included. And they look at things like investment in the fire service, how much they're spending, response times, total loss, and things like that. And for, over the last decade, Winnipeg has reported among the lowest cost for its fire service, meaning it invests among the lowest into resources. And we've had the slowest response times and the highest rate of property and life loss anywhere in the country. We're looking to the east of us, to the west of us. Cities like Calgary and Toronto are investing with hundreds of new firefighters, new stations, new apparatus to keep up with population growth. That reference in 2020 was the city's own master plan and strategic direction, which estimated call volumes out to 2040. And we exceeded those years ago and have added no new resources.
You had asked in 2020 in the master plan for specifically what?
So that was, to be clear, that wasn't us. That was the city's own plan that they put together during a review. Yeah, no problem. And things that they identified in that plan, staffing shortages, were 11 positions in fire prevention, 2 positions in public education, 4 in fire investigations, 2 in plan examination, and of course a number of frontline firefighters. And 6 years later, not a single recommendation has been implemented. So
we have the mayor of the city of Winnipeg on our show tomorrow. What would you like me to ask him about this?
Yeah, I think we need to ask ourselves, when we're going to follow the data that's put in front of us, when we're going to follow our own strategic direction and master plan, and when we're going to start investing in fire prevention, public education, and doing what needs to be done to reduce these incidents from occurring in the first place.
I'm going to read a quote actually that's in the Winnipeg Free Press this morning because you also spoke with them, but this is a strong statement. You said, quote, "Frankly, this is of the city's own making," end quote. How do we know that more investment in resources prevent deaths? Like, how do you measure this?
So like I said, in 2020, the city invested, a lot of taxpayer dollars into doing a first of its kind comprehensive review of the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, and it comprised 3 documents: the master plan, the strategic direction, and it was based on the standards to cover risk assessment, the fire underwriter survey, et cetera. And this looks at resources per capita, the geographic footprint of the city, our availability to respond, and it sets out recommendations or a framework for the city to follow moving into the future. And as I said, despite the unprecedented growth in population and call volume, we've simply shelved that report and largely ignored any recommendations other than consolidation of stations. And so if we invest and we take the time to make a plan and we don't follow the plan, well, I think the consequences of our failure is our own responsibility.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning, Nick Casper. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Nick Casper, president of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg. Tomorrow, the mayor will be here for our monthly interview.
The PWHL is back for the 3rd season of heart-stopping women's hockey. And this season, there are 2 new teams looking to make their mark on the ice: the Seattle Torrent and Vancouver Golden Eyes. When the world's best women's hockey players face off, anything can happen. Will the Minnesota Frost achieve a three-peat? Will a new team take home the trophy? There's only one way to find out. Watch the PWHL for free on CBC Gem.
Well, this is fun. Teachers at Windsor Park Collegiate are going viral. They recreated the high-energy, dance-heavy spectacle of Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance. The video shows the same bold choreography and big visuals. Teachers are holding plants as the camera moves through, revealing one teacher holding a football, parodying Bad Bunny directly. All decked out in school gear, though, and dancing through the greenery. So this video, posted last week, has already topped 500,000 views on Instagram. So why did they do this? CBC's Jim Agapito wanted to meet the teachers behind the video.
Hey, Titi me preguntó si tengo mucha novia.
My name is Ali Hassan. I'm a grade 12 student services teacher at Windsor Park Collegiate. I've made one video in my life and it went viral.
My name is Ashley Meyer. I'm a grade 10 student services teacher. I filmed the video.
We posted on the Tuesday, and then suddenly on Friday afternoon, it just started to climb. It was just going up by like the thousands every few minutes.
Ay, Titi me preguntó si tengo mucha novia.
My name's Denise Miller. I'm at Windsor Park Collegiate, and I'm teacher of visual arts and musical theater. We are a school that prides ourselves on coming together and emphasizing joy for us as staff and as kids. One of the students that is part of our planning group was talking about how excited she was for the themes this year for our dress-up days. I sent an email out to staff saying, wear green, bring plants, and then I sent a video of Bad Bunny's Super Bowl opening, but the focus on all of his A's, and said, meet us this day, and let's see what happens. And people showed up with their own interpretations, and that's how the video came to be.
It took 2 minutes to film. We're very busy staff members. It was a lunch hour. A lot of us are supervising hallways and clubs and extracurriculars and sports. So it was a really quick call. Come down to the main hallway. We're filming this thing. And yeah, we did it in 2 shots.
First of all, I was kind of like, yeah, Bad Bunny, who's this guy again? But I had seen like the whole Super Bowl piece and everything like that. And I knew kind of what he stood for, and I thought, our school is very diverse. It is really, really diverse. And I think that's an important part of who we are as Windsor Park Collegiate. And it's important. It's really important that our kids see us as people who aren't just there to give them assignments, but also to have a little fun with them.
And you're now Mr. Bad Bunny.
Yeah, so that happened, yeah.
And it's gone viral everywhere. So tell me, what's been your reaction amongst the students and friends and staff?
My phone blew up on the weekend. It was just, and people just going, hey, did you know that there's, and every time I acted surprised, and wow, this is crazy. I've taken a lot of teasing, yeah. Everywhere I walk by someone and they go, hey.
My name is Lila Lashimodier. I am a student at Windsor Park Collegiate. I thought that it was so cute when I first saw it. I feel like as a student, it is so important to see who teachers truly are, because aside from their everyday role, they're actually people. And it's so sweet to see when they get together and when they put something like this together.
A teenager's life is difficult, right? There's lots of stresses in their life. And one thing that we have to make sure is that we take time to have fun and to laugh. And the only way they learn that is by the adults doing it around them and laughing when you need to laugh. So, hopefully everyone had a good laugh.
Ay, Titi me preguntó si tengo muchas novias. Muchas novias, hoy tengo a una, mañana.
The video of the teachers. That was CBC's Jim Agapito, videographer Jason Emsom at Windsor Park Collegiate in Winnipeg. You can go to Windsor Park Collegiate's Instagram to see the video, and our story is on our YouTube page for CBC Manitoba as well. Marjorie Dalhouse is in to talk about Radio Noon. I wish we thought about that.
That's
it's so smart,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
We could have done it here.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yes. Well, we're going to stick a little bit with fun. I mean, it may not be fun
For your
outside
call-in?
right now.
No,
because
it's
the weather.
terrible.
We've seen that there's been some really crazy weather, not just here in Manitoba, but across the country. You've got that atmospheric weather out to the west. You've got the freezing rain out to the east. But guess what? Spring technically happens on Friday, March 20th. So we're going to ask you, what are your warm weather dreams? When this snow melts, eventually, what are some of the first things that you'd like to do? What are you looking forward to when it comes to spring? Maybe you actually like this weather and you're thinking, I can do a little bit more with winter here. So we want to hear from you. CBC weather specialist Riley Lechuk is going to join us and also have a long-term forecast, what we're looking at here in March. So call in after 12:30.
Okay. On board with getting ready for spring for sure. Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
That's Marjorie Dalhouse, who hosts Radio Noon, talking about the call-in, which is between 12:30 and 1. You can call and weigh in. What are your warm weather dreams? Spring does begin on Friday, and we will be above zero today in Winnipeg, 1 degree. Tomorrow, if the forecast holds, we'll be at 4 degrees. Friday could be 6 degrees if all this comes to fruition. So we do have problems in traffic that I just want to mention before we head into the news. Northbound Osborne, an illegally parked vehicle at Beresford has been causing problems right in front of the flag shop there. So that may still be causing issues. We're late in the drive, but please call Corey if you do see that, if it's cleared up by now, is what I'm trying to say, or if there is anything new that you're spotting. You can call the commuter line. 788-3093 is the number to use. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are listening to Information Radio here on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. And your CBC News from Manitoba is coming up next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we are still covered with snow, but that snow is going to start disappearing over the next few days. We have seasonal, even warmer than seasonal temperatures in the forecast. Starting today, a high of 1 and the wind just light, up to 15 kilometers an hour. A local indigenous cultural group wants the Steinbach school to follow through on its anti-bullying policy after an 11-year-old was forced to switch schools following a violent assault. It happened a month ago. Theo Osborne suffered a concussion, lost a tooth, and had some hair pulled in the attack at Stony Brook Middle School. Osborne is a member of Pimachikamak Cree Nation. Bambi Bartholet is with Minnow Oduin. She says the school's lack of response about the incident will only make bullying worse.
If they just go back to what they were doing before, you're just going to have more of the same. Just Theo won't be there to experience it, but it'll be other kids experiencing it.
Theo's mom, Melissa Johnson, says he is making new friends after being transferred to a different school. A woman who lost her brother to an overdose is disappointed the government is not planning to open new rapid access to addiction medicine clinics, or RAM clinics. Lee Earnshaw died in 2021 after taking a toxic mix of fentanyl and methamphetamine. An inquest judge recommended new RAM clinics be added. Shared Health says it isn't planning to open new sites. Earnshaw's sister, Carol Packer, says that is not acceptable.
They failed Lee once again. They're failing at providing access to treatment.
Shared Health says it is focused on enhancing a virtual appointment system for the clinics. Manitoba's addiction minister says the government has also added more than 1,500 addiction treatment spaces. The organization representing Manitoba school boards is defending school divisions for raising taxes. The province forecasts a 22% increase in education property tax revenue this fiscal year. And several school divisions have proposed hefty increases to their mill rates for the next year. Manitoba School Boards Association President Alan Campbell says divisions are making up for chronic underfunding under the previous PC government, and although provincial funding has improved under the NDP, he says some divisions feel it isn't keeping pace with rising costs.
Our only other source of revenue is indeed the provincial government. And we have offered that message to Minister Sala and Minister Schmidt very plainly, that the provincial government needs to do more to fund education in this province.
Finance Minister Adrian Sala maintains the NDP is funding education adequately. Well, the Bank of Canada is about to announce its latest interest rate decision that comes down in about 10 minutes from now. Economists widely expect the central bank to keep its key lending rate at 2.25%. Inflation is falling in Canada, so are home prices, but the tariff war with the U.S. is still causing plenty of uncertainty, as is the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. This rate, 2.25%, has been in place since October. Well, it is a musical about musicals.
Will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me?
The Steinbach Arts Council celebrating that city's vibrant musical history this week with a special production. Generations of performers are uniting to perform Broadway Moments. Mercedes Thiessen's been performing since she was in 6th grade. She says Steinbach's Mennonite culture plays a role for many in the musical movement.
A lot of people grew up singing in church or acting in their church production, and so lots of these people have some reference in their mind of what is it like to do drama or sing.
Broadway Moments runs Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings at Steinbach Regional Secondary School, Theatre. You can stay in step with all the news throughout the day. All you have to do is head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks for the morning, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
Also, I want to give thanks to everyone that worked on the show. So that is our producers, Leif Larson and Ellie Gonzalez, our Studio 15 crew, Darren Marash, Corey Funk, and Abby Adiyemi, as well as our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, and Alana Cole. And finally, the associate producers, Sophia Peralta-Barone, Sierra Sanders, and Chris Garrow, reporter in Steinbach, with the stories on today's program, and our reporter in unit, Jim Agapito, as well as Jason Empsom, who headed out for the Bad Bunny video at Windsor Park. Super fun. Okay, Corey, what's up in the morning commute as we wrap the show here?
May still be an issue at Gateway and Chief Peguis. Lights were flashing red. Crews were on scene trying to fix that. Light standard was knocked down as well. Heard about a illegally parked vehicle. May still be a problem. Northbound Osborne at Beresford. That's right outside the flag shop, causing some big backups, says Tim.
Okay. Abby?
Well, the province remains divided between the torn south landscape and that frigid conditions we've been tracking up north, with cloudy skies dominating the provincial landscape. For Winnipeg, -5 at this time under cloudy skies. We're heading to a high of 1 with a risk of freezing drizzle or some light flurries in the mix sometime this morning. And watch out for a risk of slick morning roads.
All right. Hopefully we will get a little bit of melting and we'll have safe conditions through the rest of today and tomorrow. Take it easy out there, folks, and thanks for listening to Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa on behalf of our whole team here at your public broadcaster on CBC. Hopefully you join us again tomorrow. You've been on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is Information Radio. Stay tuned. The Current's coming up next.